morning. I believe some of you were in the last class where we had to discuss CV writing and cover letter. But just before I go ahead, we have Bianos Juliet with your hands raised up. Apologies, I might not be able to turn on my camera at this time, but I want to be sure you guys can hear me. Hello, can you hear me? Can I get some form of feedback that you can hear me clearly?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, awesome. Good morning. So, following up on our last class where we talked about CV writing and cover letter, it's like an entire series that basically just prepares you for your job application journey. The CV and the cover letter and the cover writing part basically just helps you put in an application, and then the goal of that submission or the goal of that application is to get invited for an interview so that you can as well prove to your prospective employer that you're the right fit or you're the right person for the job, right? And hopefully that's translates into you getting employed and you joining the organization and everyone's happy. So that's what we're going to be talking today. So when you're invited, let's say you've done an amazing job with your CV and your cover letter, and now you're being invited for an interview. How do you constantly stay winning? How do you constantly stay winning? So I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully that would help us to understand the other parts of the application process. So do let me know when you can see my screen. Yeah, can you see my screen, please?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Awesome. Okay. So, sorry, I'm trying to hide the floating link. Okay, yeah, hidden. Okay. So this is an interview preparation masterclass. Like I said, following up on the previous conversation we had, and yeah, this is the outline of what we're going to go over today. So first is introduction and objective. I want to believe I'm not a stranger, but I'm still going to introduce myself a bit and to let you know why you should even listen to me. Why should I be telling you this? Why am I the right person to have this conversation with you? So I'm just going to briefly go through my profile, which you're also seeing on the screen. I'm a management consultant at Mastercard West Africa, and I'm also a career coach as well. On the side, I run HR operations for Hotels Impact Consulting, and I'm the executive director of the Student Personal Development Hub. And finally, just a recent addition is the fact that I'm also a scholar interviewer at NHF, which is the Nigerian Higher Education Foundation. So this is the reason why I feel like I should be having this conversation with you today, because I have experienced this thing across all levels, across fronts. And I believe that, I'm sharing my experience with you will basically put you at an advantage to, you know, land your next job or land the next role. So my objective here today is to get you ready for your next interview and open your eyes to interviews from the perspective of an interviewer. So mostly you're on the side of the interviewee. Now let's look at interviews from the side of an interviewer, and that will give you a better appreciation of some of the questions that you're being asked in an interview, some of the things that goes on in an interview, and hopefully that helps you prepare even better, to land your next role. So just before we continue, I just want to get a sense of who is in the room. So can I have like two people please introduce themselves, tell us a bit about yourself and why you're on the call, what is your expectation for this class, very briefly, and then we'll get started. So you might have to speak because I cannot see. I'm literally sharing my screen. And I might not be able to see um, who's talking. Do I have any volunteers?
Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Please go ahead. Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Good morning.
Okay. So please, can you come again? The question.
So it's not a question. I was asking if you can if someone can introduce. Oh, you know what? I think I'm just gonna let that slide since no
You
one is
asked us
willing to
before. Sorry.
introduce them.
Hi, Mr. Innocent. Good morning, sir.
Hi, good morning. Who's speaking, please?
Yeah, my name is Joy Oshilaja.
Hi, Joy.
Yeah, so to what you asked us to do our introduction, Joy Oshilaja here, customer service representative for Mash Baby Food. Yeah, so my expectation for sorry, the reason why I'm joining this call is actually because I'm looking forward to applying for job roles in other companies, and hopefully from this training or masterclass today, I'll be able to get insights on how bigger firms conduct interviews and probably get ideas on how to respond to questions when I'm asked or faced with
Mhm.
an interview panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. That was a very good introduction. Well done. Can I get one more person before I skip to the next thing I want to talk about today?
Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Please go ahead. Hello, I cannot see who's speaking, so you might need to introduce yourself.
Hello, good morning. My name is Juliet Bienisha.
Hi, Juliet. Lovely to meet you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Okay, for the sake of time, I'm just going to skip past this right now and let's move. So moving on, the next thing I'd like us to look at is overview of interviews. This segment is basically supposed to give you a better view of what exactly an interview is or what it entails. Just before I go on, can you confirm that you can hear me clearly, please?
Yes, I can.
Okay,
Your voice
Yes,
is
sir.
okay. All right, now
Please,
let's
can
look
you
at
be more
this.
audible? The network is breaking.
Is this the same experience for everyone? Is my network breaking or can you hear me very well?
I can
I
hear you
can
very
hear
well.
you clearly.
Okay, then that's great. So whoever cannot hear me now is probably your network and not mine. Okay, so what are we looking at? We're looking at the overview of an interview. So like a summary, or just to get us started, I would like to say that interviews are used to gather insights and to help organizations make informed decision and establish connection, with a prospective hire, right? What is the general definition of what an interview is, right? People consider an interview to be a formal conversation between two or more people, usually with one person asking question and the other person providing answers. The person who's asking the question is called an interviewer, and the person who is providing the answer is called an interviewee. Now, another very interesting, explanation or definition of what an interview is that it's a formal or informal. Now, you notice that the word informal is highlighted, and the reason for that is an interview can actually happen in a not so formal setting. I've had cases where people get interviewed at a bar, for example. They don't have to think about the nuances of what an interview or what a proper interview should look like. So an interview can also be informal, right? I don't know if anyone has seen this movie, um, The Wolf of Wall Street, right? There was a scene where um, like someone was asking the guy, uh, um, that's like what's his name? I can't remember. Like how he makes his money, and then he told him he makes XYZ amount, you know, every month. And the guy told him if you can explain to him how he goes about making the money, he's going to quit his job and join his organization. And that was there and where the interview happened. So that's why I'm taking time to explain that an interview can actually be also in an informal setting, right? And the goal of it is to have a conversation that is used to assess a person's suitability for either a job, an academic program, or other opportunities. And they do that by evaluating um, the interviewees' qualifications, their skills, and their personality fits for that specific opportunity that they have been interviewed for. Now, an interview can also take place in many contexts, such as an employment, which is going to be the focus of our conversation today. People also have interviews on TV. I'm sure you guys have seen people being interviewed on air on TV through journalism and and reporting. People also have to conduct interview for research. So like going to do primary research, for example, you might need to conduct interviews to get data. Things around academic admissions. So if you're applying to schools abroad, largely because in Nigeria, you don't get to see people get interviewed for admission in universities. But then in other same climes, people get um, interviewed for their academic interest in a specific institution. So people can be interviewed, for an academic, to be granted admission into an academic institute. So, for example, if you're going to apply for an MBA, for example, you need to know that you're going to conduct or you're going to have an MBA interview with the admissions committee, right? Now, for the sake of our focus today, hiring managers use interviews to learn more about your background as a candidate or as an interviewee, your skills, and whether you be a good fit for the company that you've applied for. Now, there are various types of job interviews, and you're going to see some of them being explained in detail as we go forward. There's one called the one-on-one interview when it's just one person to one person, but this kind of interview can also be, further divided into a structured or an unstructured interview. You're going to get to see the difference between a structured and an unstructured interview as we move forward. There's the panel interview where you have like multiple people on a panel interviewing either one person or more than one person at the same time. There's one called the group interview. So, for example, if you're applying to companies like KPMG and PwC, there's something in their recruitment process is called the assessment center. Now, in the assessment center is where most times you get to see the expression of what is called a group interview, where people are being put in groups and then they are assessed on the basis of how they're able to perform within a group setting, right? There's also the one called the case interview. Now, the case interview is a very strategic and very interesting interview type, which we're going to get to see as we move forward. There's also the one called the technical interview, where they're basically just going to be looking at your technical capabilities. That's what they're trying to assess. There's also the behavioral interview. There's the task-based interview, the speed or rapid interview, and a host of other interviews. Like there are a lot of them, right? But these are the most frequent ones that you get to see in your journey to employment, right? Now, what are the modes of these interviews? These interviews can be done physically or in person. Sorry, whose mic is turned on? Can you put off your
Tana,
mic,
how you dey
please?
so? It's that thing.
Hi, someone's mic is turned on. Please, when you join classes, ensure that your mic is put on mute so that you don't interrupt the class. So, what are the various modes of an interview? An interview can be done physically or in person. It can be done virtually or online. An interview can also be a video recording. An organization can tell you, "Oh, we want you to record a video of your responses to XYZ questions." An interview can also be live stream videos. There's one time when I was applying for a job with the Bank of America, for example, the interview was like someone is seeing you live from their screen, but you cannot see the person. It's like you're just streaming yourself live and you're answering specific questions that pops up on your screen. There's also the one called the telephonic interview, whereby your interviewer, places a call across to you over the telephone. There's no form of video element to that. So these are like the most recurring or the most common modes of an interview. Now let's dive deep into the different types of interviews so that you're able to decipher very quickly, tell what type of interview that you're being invited for. Now we spoke about one-on-one interviews, which can be subdivided into structured and unstructured interview. Now, what is a structured interview? A structured interview is a standardized and systematic questioning style of interview where each candidate is assessed using predetermined questions. So these questions have been predetermined as the basis upon which people are going to be assessed, and this allows for a fair and consistent evaluation using a scoring system. So all the interviewees, whoever comes to that interview, are going to be asked the same set of questions, and then they have various measures or metrics in which you score people based on how they've responded. It can either be from a scale of 1 to 5 of how strong their responses are to the question, or whatever system or the organization decides to go through. Now, this is a fair and reliable style of interview. However, it is a bit rigid and not very flexible because interviewers just have to follow the script. Now, there's the other type of interview, which is called the unstructured interview, which is usually a bit informal, very open-ended questions, allowing for a more flexible and a more flexible atmosphere that explores a person's, qualities in depth and also shows their value proposition to that organization. Now, this is my most preferred type of interview where you get to ask, an unstructured style where you ask me open-ended questions just to get a sense of who I am as a person and the value I intend to bring to your organization. The goal of an unstructured interview is really to delve into the candidate's personality and their motivation and their interpersonal skills, allowing for a more holistic view of who the person is. Now, you see why I said this is my most preferred because it doesn't just ask you specific questions. It is more intentional around, trying to figure out who you are as a person, right? Now, the only issue I have with this part of interview is the fact that the interviewer's judgment plays a significant role in assessing a candidate, and that can create room for biases. For example, some people, can be biased based on how a person looks. You know how like some of these nuances like come in. So for in countries where you see racism, for example, if if the scoring of the candidate is at the discretion of the interviewer, some people who have some personal biases might be vindictive towards a candidate, and some of these little issues can begin to arise now. So that's like one of the major disadvantages of this style of an interview, right? There's also the behavioral interview. The behavioral interview basically assesses a candidate's past behavior and experiences to sort of like help them predict what your future performance would be like. So based off what you have done in the past, can we say for certain that you're somebody who will be able to fit in effectively into our organization and solve our problems for us? That is what this interview type is trying to achieve, right? Trying to say, oh, you have done this in the past before. Can you replicate this for us? And now, largely, to be successful at answering behavioral questions, there's something called the STAR framework or the STAR technique of answering interview questions. We're going to see more of that as we move forward in the course of our conversation, right? The next type of like interviews that we see is also the situational case interviews, which basically involves presenting candidates with a hypothetical situation or scenario or real life situation, or maybe even with a problem that the company is currently facing. So they come and tell you, oh, um, the marketing unit of our company is currently experiencing a downturn in sales revenue. We have pumped in money for marketing campaigns and things like that. However, we have not seen significant turnaround in the marketing, in the sales revenue of our business. What would you do in a situation like this? So they're giving you basically real life situations or even hypothetical scenarios to also sense, like it will also help them understand your approach to problem solving and decision making. Now, the reason why most organizations employ people is that they want people who will come and solve their problems for them. Nobody just want to employ you to come and sit down and occupy space. The reason why every employer is looking to hire somebody is someone who will come and solve an organizational problem for them. Now, you tend to see this type of interviews mostly used in management consulting firms like the McKinseys and the BCGs. These are people who are very particular about problem solving and decision making for their clients. So if you're able to effectively scale through a case interview, it communicates to them that you have the potential to effectively be a consultant at their organization. Now, we move on to technical interviews, which basically assesses a candidate's specific knowledge, skills, and ability related to the technical requirement of the job. So in many cases, you see sometimes in software development companies, for example, when they're hiring to, like software developers and the coding guys, they give them a coding test. That coding test is basically supposed to assess their technical capabilities. Let me even bring it home down to what you can relate to. Some companies, when you go for an interview, will just give you an Excel file with a lot of data and tell you to clean this data and draw out insight from it. That is a technical interview. What they're trying to test is your technical ability or your technical capability to make use of the Microsoft Excel tool. And then finally, I spoke a bit about this is the group interview, which involves multiple candidates being assessed simultaneously by one or more interviewers through discussions or activities. So they put you in a group engagement and tell you, oh, solve this problem or do this or do that or jump. They just want to see you, monitor you, how you're performing within a group setting. And this is usually done because teamwork and communication, or even like leadership, are critical elements of success in that organization. So you see that they're using that to test your teamwork, communication, and leadership abilities most times. And you see that happen a lot in some of these big companies that I just mentioned previously. Now let's move over to what is exactly is the purpose of an interview. I know I've mentioned this a bit, but let's dive a bit deep from the perspective of an interviewee and the perspective of an interviewer. What are both people looking for when it comes to an interview? Now, from the perspective of an of an interviewer, they want to assess your cultural fit. What does that mean? Every organization has a culture within the that they try to protect or they try to promote. So, for example, companies like KPMG will tell you some of their organizational values include teamwork, integrity, leadership, effective communication. These are some of the values that they hold dear in that organization. Now, the interviewer who is representing that organization has the sole responsibility to ensure that the candidate that they are bringing on board has the capability or has the potential to thrive in such cultural environments. You want to bring in people who can work in teams, and that's why you see companies like KPMG are putting you through group interviews because they want to see how you perform within a group. Because most of the work they do at KPMG are usually within team settings. I hope you begin to see how some of these things make sense now. Now, from the standpoint of our interviewer, again, they also want to gauge your interest in the role and the company itself. And that's why they ask you, oh, what do you know about our company in an interview? Even this role that you've applied for, what do you think it's, like, what do you think this role entails a bit more in detail? They want to just know, are you passionate about the role? Are you even interested in their company? Or you're just looking for a job to pay your bills? This is what an interviewer is looking out for. They also want to assess your skills and experience to deliver on that role and add value to the organization. So the reason why they're also looking at like what the interviewer is also looking out for is, do you have the skills and the experience to actually deliver on this role? They also want to validate the impression they already have about you. So they've read your CV, they've read your cover letter. They say, oh, this is very interesting. I want to invite this person with an intention to validate that some of these things that he has on his CV or some of the things he has said are actually true. And then they create questions that can help them effectively assess that. They also want to assess your goal alignment. So the goal alignment of the candidate expectation with the company's objective for the role. And this is where some things around the salary expectation is being considered or even spoken about, because they need to be sure that what your expectation is as an interviewee is in alignment with what they as an organization, have set for themselves. Because if you give someone a role, or if you hire somebody whose expectation for that role is maybe they want to earn 500K and they want to have an entire team to themselves, if that is the person's expectation, and what your company is looking out for, the objective they set for that role is to pay that person about 350,000, and that person has to work with just one person, there is a misalignment in that um you know in both expectations, and then you begin to see people not staying long in that role, or you begin to see people who are just gliding through the role and not exactly contributing or adding value, and that results to large dissatisfaction for both the interviewer and the interviewee. Now, the interviewer is also trying to assess a candidate's personality, your values, your work ethics. Who are you? What kind of a person are you? Are you somebody who is lazy? Are you somebody who will give excuses for work every time you're being given something to do? The interviewer is also trying to assess your confidence level and your communication skills. Now, a lot of times you think that many times, it might just even be the way you spoke at that interview that is convincing the recruiter that you'll be able to deliver on that job, even though you do not have the necessary skill set. It might just have been the way you spoke, the way you communicated, your audacity, the level of your confidence. And you have to be careful so you don't come off overconfident. You begin to see some of these nuances as we go forward. And then finally, the interviewer is also looking to discuss any concerns they've had. So, for example, they've reviewed your application and maybe they saw something, maybe there's a gap in your experience. They want to clarify why did you have this gap in your work experience, and just to get a sense of any form of ambiguity. Maybe there's something that you put on your CV, maybe like an abbreviation that they do not know. They want to clarify, what did you mean when you say something like this in your CV? Do you get? These are some of the things that they're also looking out for from the standpoint of an interviewer. Now, from the interviewee's perspective, what exactly is the purpose of them coming? What, like, why do they even need to honor your invitation for an interview in the first place? Well, they want to learn more about the role and the company's culture. That's what an interviewee is looking out for. They they want to also tell their story, right? Why they are the best person for the role. An interviewee wants to discuss their experience and showcase their skills and outline their value proposition to their prospective employer. They also want to convince the interviewer that they are the best person for the role, clarify as well any ambiguity or gaps in their application, and to connect with the recruiter. The reason why this point is very critical is because you might not get that specific role that you're applying for. But if you are able to communicate or present yourself as someone of value, the recruiter might know of an open role that might be best suited for you as a person. And then they will refer you for that role. Oh, this person might not be suited for this particular role, but I believe that they'll be able to do well in this particular one. But you, as interviewee, you might not even be aware that there is an open role in the organization. And that's why it is very critical, it's very important that you connect with the recruiter, because there's a possibility of you being referred for. It might not even be within her organization, because these recruiters, they like tend to connect or like interact across organizations. It might just even be her fellow like HR friend in a different organization looking for somebody, to fill up a role, and maybe I just put it um on her WhatsApp status, for example. She can tell you, she can refer you for that role, and that's how people get jobs. And then finally, I believe the entire purpose of going for an interview is also to land the job. And I believe that, you know, by the end of this session, we'll be able to know how to do that effectively. Now, let's look at the stages of an interview. What are the various stages of an interview? Before I continue, I want to get a sense of reaction from you guys. Are you guys following what I'm talking about? Do you have any pressing question at this point? I'll just take like one or two of it.
None from my end.
Okay. So I believe everyone is following with what I've been talking about so far. Okay, so let's move on. What are the stages of an interview? The different stages of an interview are critical for the overall success of the process, as none is less important than the other. Now, there are three major stages of an interview process. One is the pre-interview stage, the second is during the interview, and the third is post-interview. Now, for the pre-interview, we're looking at this is very essential for a smooth interview experience. By completing some key activities such as researching the organization, picking the right outfit, etc., you should be well on your way to succeed at your interview. Now, success is when preparation meets opportunity. You need to be prepared before you get into the war room. Now, during the interview, why is this stage very important? Your success at this stage is dependent on the strength of the previous stage. So, for you to be successful, I'm getting some form of feedback. Okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So,
Yes, sir.
for
Yes, we
you
can
to be
hear you.
successful during the interview, you have to, have done a lot of work in the previous stage, which is the pre-interview stage. Now, the second stage is technically the impression management stage, where you're basically managing the impression that you already set in the mind of your prospective employer. This stage of the interview carries the weight of a hiring decision, very important, and there is little or no room for do-overs. Staying calm and adequate practice, or rather, will make this stage very seamless for you. And then when you move over to the post-interview stage, this stage is essential to stay top of mind and potentially stand out to your prospective employer or opportunity sponsor. Your action in this stage can positively impact the outcome of the previous stage. What does this mean? The little things you might do in the post-interview stage can tweak a little in your favor of what has happened in the previous stage, which is the interview itself. And then finally, this stage is often overlooked and paid less attention to. Hence, the reason why it becomes a differentiator for you. Now, let's look at these different stages of an interview in more detail. Now, for the pre-interview stage, here are the key activities that we're looking out for when you're thinking about preparing for an interview. What are the things you need to do before an actual interview happens? Now, the first and most critical thing is research. And what are the key activities in this topic? You need to do proper research about the company. You need to really know about the company you're applying for. Who are their customers or clients? What are their values? What is the latest news about this company? That department that you're applying for in that role, that role that you're applying for, what department in the organization does it fall under? What is the ideal industry salary range for someone that's applying for this role? These are some of the little things you can do that can transform, the outcome of your interviews. Now, if you're privy to the information of your interviewer, for example, maybe when they're scheduling the interview, you got a sense of who your interviewer is going to be by virtue of their email address, right? You can leverage a tool like you can leverage LinkedIn to even research the interviewer themselves. You might just find out that you and the person went to the same school, and that can even be an entry point for you to sway your way throughout that interview. Little detail like that. It might just be that, oh, this person also has a background in the background that in the field of study that you have also, like gone to study in school. It may just have been that they have an interest in chess, for example, and you're a chess master. That can be the element of differentiator of for you as a person in an interview. Now, you also need to read the job description thoroughly and to start thinking about how you can add value to the organization by virtue of that job description itself. Because that job description literally just puts it summarily what the organization is hoping to achieve with that role. So if you begin to think about, okay, they want somebody who can do content writing. For example, maybe the role is for a social media manager, but then they're also looking for a social
Like,
media
why
manager.
you go there? Don't understand.
Who's speaking, please? Please mute your mic. So you need to ask yourself, really, oh my God, I just lost my chain of thought because of that distraction. Okay. Yes. So you need to ask yourself, how can you begin to add value to the organization by virtue of the job description that you've read? And then another thing that's also very critical is if you know somebody who has been through that process before, speak to that person. They can just tell you one thing that will just turn it around for you. They might just be the person that will tell you what you need to do to succeed at that interview. The next thing you also want to do in this stage is also to plan for the interview. So you need to find out all you need to know about the interview, like what mode of interview is it? Is it a physical interview? Is it a virtual interview? What is the type of interview? Is it going to be a case interview? Is it going to be a group interview? Is it going to be a one-on-one interview? You need to know all of these details. You also need to know what is the length of the interview. If it's a 45 minutes interview, you know that this interview is going to be very in depth. So you need to come with your A game. But if it's a 15 minutes interview, you just really know it's just a preliminary interview to just get a sense of who you are. So the length of the interview can also help you decipher how to prepare for that interview. You need to know what is the time of the interview. Check if the like time zone difference has to impact on the timing so that you don't miss out on the time of that interview. What is the venue? So if it's a physical location, you need to know the address of the location. Where is the interview actually happening? Some companies might have a physical location, but they are doing the interview somewhere else. So you need to also confirm all of these details. If you're someone with disability, you need to also check if the organization has disability adjustments with reference to that interview. Beyond knowing what you know, like you need for that interview. You also need to know what you need to bring along. So if, for example, you need to bring your CVs, certificate IDs. I've seen a lot of cases where people go for an interview without their CV, expecting that. I mean, it's a digital era. Nobody's going to fault. I mean, it's better to go prepared than to be sorry. I know I've seen a movie about how someone went to print out her CV when she came for an interview. Before she came back, they've already given the job to someone else. So you need to ensure that everything that you need for that interview is intact. You have your file. There's no document that is missing. Another thing to do is again is if it's a physical interview, you need to plan your journey. So if you're living in Awoyaya and that interview is in Lekki phase one, you know in your heart of heart that you will not be able to make it to that interview by 8 a.m. in the morning. How about you call a family friend who lives somewhere like, say, Yaba or Sule, that's a bit closer to your interview location? Something else you also need to consider very critically is you need to decide what to wear. Now, this is very important. By virtue of the company that you're applying for, you need to understand what the culture of that organization is. If it's a tech company, for example, you understand that they dress down in that company. They probably don't wear suits to the office. They wear jeans and t-shirts. Some of these things can impact on your choice of outfit. You don't want to go there looking like you did not get the memo. Just imagine you're going to a company like Microsoft, for example, and you're all in full regalia, wearing suit and tie and corporate shoe. It already sends the message that you do not understand the role that you're applying for, and you do not even understand the culture of that organization you're applying for. And that can be a complete turn off for your prospective employer. So you need to understand what is the culture of that organization, what is their sense of dressing. If it's to ask somebody on LinkedIn, just to be sure, please do that. The next thing that is very important in the pre-interview stage is practice, practice, practice. You need to make conscious effort to practice answering common interview questions to the mirror or to your friends and family. This will largely boost your confidence significantly because ideally, on a normal level, people get jitters when they go for interviews. People get butterflies. People get really nervous. But what can really help you, to stay calm it might just be your practice efforts. The fact that you've done the work, you've practiced, and you've practiced most of the interview questions that you're supposed to answer. Another thing again that you can try is something called role playing. You can take your brother and say, you sit as the interviewer. I am going to sit as the interviewee. If I answer this question, let me know if it makes sense. These are some of the things you can begin to do to get more confident and get, you know, prepared for this interview to kill it. And then the last thing I also want to speak about in this pre-interview stage is your mindset. See, it is normal to feel nervous when you go for an interview. It is completely and totally normal. However, you're not going to let it affect your performance at that interview. There are a lot of techniques you can practice to help you calm your nerves. There's something called the deep breath technique, where you take in very deep breaths. You hold it in for a long time, and that can just really help calm your nerves. Some people like to go into the bathroom and scream, and that's what makes them calm. So if you know what works for you, try to do it. The ultimate goal is to stay calm and be in your zen mode. An interview is not a death sentence. Nobody's going to kill you. What usually helps me sometimes is I think about the worst case scenario. See, what is the worst thing that will happen? I will not get this job. I'll be fine. Just even thinking and accepting that worst case scenario can just really kill all the nerves that I'm having prior to that interview. So it's very important that you figure out what works for you and you move with it. Another interesting thing to note, another interesting thing to note is, okay, no, I think that's about it for the pre-interview stage. Any questions so far?
Yeah,
Do you have any questions so far based on this, on the
I
content on this slide?
have a question.
Yes, please go ahead.
How do you know what type of an interview what type of interview when it's not seen on mail, like if it's a technical or one-on-one? How do you know?
So many times your prospective employer will state the type of interview it is. Most times when they don't state it, it is usually going to be a one-on-one. I mean, sometimes you can ask if you get the email that is inviting you for the interview, you can just reply the email and ask, oh, please, can I confirm certain things about this interview? It shows proactiveness, it shows your enthusiasm for that job role. They might reply, they might not reply, but it's better to ask than assume. So if you ask and they don't respond, just, you know, if it's a case interview, I'm sure they're going to let you know because you need to practice for a case interview. If it's just a regular one-on-one interview, they might not necessarily tell you, oh, it's a one-on-one, it's a panel interview. But most times, it is always included in the invitation to an interview. They tell you, oh, you're going to like join a panel interview, or you're going to have an interview. Just, you know, it's more likely going to be stated in your like in your invitation for an interview. I hope that answers your question. I hope that answers your question. Do you have any other question for this slides?
Yes, I do.
Okay, please, like, yeah, you can ask a question. Just like go one after the other.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but your network is
Hello.
breaking. Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, so my question is on the dressing part, what to wear
Mm-hmm.
to an interview.
Mm-hmm.
So are you saying that, okay, let's say I'm applying for a tech or in a tech company, so I don't have to dress corporate. I can put on t-shirt and jean trouser.
So that's what I'm saying. It is dependent on the culture of that organization. Some tech companies are fine with you coming with your business casual. So by business casual, you can just wear a like a pant and a shirt, for example, and maybe a shoe, and that's fine. Some of the tech companies would really not mind when you wear a t-shirt and a jean and sneakers, but you need to be sure. And that's why I said you can even ask somebody on LinkedIn what is the culture of the organization, or you can go to the company's social media platform and just see how they usually dress. And that should help inform what you should do. Because if you go to a tech company, for example, that do not even wear any form of corporate attire, and you go there in your full regalia with suit and tie and shoe, you will look funny. You will look funny, and it's going to communicate the fact that you have not done your homework. So you need to do and this is what I say, do your research. Go to the company social media, look at the pictures of their team. How are they typically dressed? You can ask somebody on LinkedIn or ask somebody who knows, just to be safe. You can just wear business casual. If a lady, a nice gown is okay with a cover shoe or a heels if you want. I don't know how that works for you, for ladies, but like whatever makes you not dressing completely formal for a company that their culture is informal dressing. I don't know if that makes sense. You just need to look for how to balance that nuance and be sure that you're doing the right thing. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
You're welcome. Someone else had a question.
Yes, I do.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. What if in a scenario where you applied for different types of jobs, like you applied to like 10 companies, a
Mm-hmm.
sudden, like a few days later, one of the companies reached out to you that you have an interview the next day, and
Mm-hmm.
you don't know, you kind of forgot the actual company that is calling you for an interview. And from what I'm seeing on the slide now, it's actually very important to do your research before going for an interview. So in that particular situation, how do you handle it? What do you advise the person should do?
Okay, so first of all, why are you applying to a company that you have not done your research about or you don't even have an idea about? I get that people do that a lot, but when they invite you for an interview, I'm sure there will be some element of communication from that company. It's either through their email or the fact that the company will state the name in there. If you don't see any form of like communication or credibility from an invitation to an interview, please do not honor that invitation. There have been cases where people have been invited for interviews, and that is the last time they came back home. Any company that's inviting you for an interview that does not have their website maybe on the email they've sent to you, they don't have their um, email address, they don't have the company name on the email, all these are red flags that you need to look out for. So if you've applied for 10 companies, when they invite you for an interview and send you, I'm sure that they're going to give you good notice. Okay, let's even say it's a day before the interview, which is not even the right interview practice in the first place. Ideally, they should give you appropriate time to consider accepting or rejecting the interview invitation. Now, once you get an invitation, you can start doing your research immediately. You can start doing your research maybe even before that interview comes, before the actual day of the interview. You can pick out your outfit that day. If you don't have it, you can ask somebody, a family or friend, to borrow you an outfit that you can use for an interview. If the location is very far, you can decide to go to a family's friend's place that night. But ideally, a company that invites you for an interview and does not give you appropriate time to prepare for that interview, it's a red flag for you about that company. It speaks to their culture. It speaks to what that company holds dear. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Sorry, I forgot to mention that the interview is virtual. It's not physical. It's virtual.
Okay, so if it's a virtual interview, then you know how you need to do everything. Do your tech check. Is also part of things I included here. I think I skipped that when I was talking about planning for your interview. I said here in plan for interview, if it's a physical interview, plan your journey appropriately. However, if it's a virtual, if it is virtual, like if it is virtual, conduct a tech and background check. So if it's a virtual interview, you need to ensure that you're facing the window with a light on your screen if you don't have a ring light, for example, because you don't want a situation where you're in a dark room and they cannot even see your face. That's a very big red flag when you're doing a virtual interview. So you need to ensure that you're like seated and positioned properly for that interview. And then, you know, check that your background, there's nothing distracting your background. There's no child running around or people walking around the background of where you're going to do your interview. You need to find a proper interview space to have your interview. So yeah, these are some of the considerations that you need to make. Now let's run quickly to the next stage or the next phase of the interview. So the next stage is during the interview, what are the key activities that is supposed to be done here? Number one is being punctual. You need to be punctual. So you should aim to arrive at least 10 minutes if it's a physical interview. You need to aim to arrive at least 10 minutes before the interview. If it's a physical location. Then if it's a virtual interview, you need to have clicked on the link to join that interview, maybe at least 5 minutes, 3 minutes to that interview because it's a virtual interview. But by then, you must have set the background and set the stage for that interview. If you're delayed, contact the employer as soon as possible to explain, apologize, and arrange another appointment if possible. Now, when you get there on time, it gives you an opportunity to engage with other applicants and build your network. Now, this is a very interesting point I had to add here because along my journey, I've met quite interesting people who I'm still friends with now. We became friends when we were job hunting together. You can begin to build your network by virtue of some of this conversation because it might just even be your fellow job seeker that might send you the link to the next job opportunity that you will get. So many times it's always good to be punctual at an interview so that you can get a chance to interact with other interviewees and also, like get a sense of who they are and learn from them. You can even see somebody that you can be friends with and you guys might even be living in the same place. So there was one time I went for an interview and by virtue of the conversation I was having with somebody before that interview happened, we sort of like connected. So after the interview and the entire process, because it was a group like interview, I was heading home. And as God may have it, that person I was speaking to was effectively heading my direction and they were driving. So it was just an opportunity I got by virtue of just speaking to somebody. And that's, some of the little benefits you can get by virtue of interacting with other interviewees or like when you go for a job. But if chatting with people gets you anxious, you can isolate yourself with soft music. I need to add that there because there's some people they are not very chatty. They don't know how to interact with people effectively. And maybe speaking to people might even get them more anxious a bit. So they just like to isolate themselves until they are done with that interview. So whatever works for you, please go ahead to do it. Now, let's talk about the next stage that I tag. Go get them. Now, this is some of the things you need to also consider. You need to stay calm and smile as much as possible. If you walk into the room, give a firm handshake. This communicates your confidence to the prospective employer or recruiter. Now, it is very important that you listen attentively and think before you respond to a question. This is very important because a lot of times when you're interviewing people, or when I'm like based on my own experience, you ask somebody a question, they don't understand what you're asking them, and they open their mouth and they start answering and saying all sort of gibberish. And you ask them, did you listen to the question that you were asked? A lot of times, it's either the nerves getting the better part of that person. Oh, they don't want to seem unintelligent, or they don't want to seem like they don't know what they are saying. To be honest, it is okay to take your time. If you do not understand the question, if you do not hear the person, politely ask, oh, sorry, I did not hear the question you asked. Can you kindly repeat it? It also even gives you an opportunity to think a bit more about your like the answers you're going to give to that question. Even sometimes people hear the questions, and they still ask. Or so, for example, if they ask you the question and you don't have a straight on answer and you need some time to think, you can just politely ask, oh, sorry, I didn't hear the question clearly. Can you kindly repeat the question? Now, don't do this too much, else it becomes obvious that you're using that one to buy time. You have to be very creative with it. Some people use that second recount of the question to think about their answers a bit more. It is also okay when you ask the question and you tell your prospective employer or your interviewer, please, can I take a few seconds to think about this question a bit more? It is okay. I don't know why people have a sense of jumping right at the question. Oh, they want to answer immediately, and you answer rubbish. So it is very critical, it's very important that you listen attentively to the question, ensure that you understand what the interviewer is asking you before opening your mouth to respond. If you don't understand the question, say, please, I do not understand this question. Can you rephrase or paraphrase this question for me? See, this interview, they're already impressed with your skill. They're already impressed with your profile. They want to see if you are a good fit for them. So they're also interested in your success. They are not against you. Your interviewer is not against you. That is the notion a lot of people have. They think, oh, the interviewer wants to come and kill me. Asking me question back to me. Many times they just want to, you know, like as per what we discussed around the purpose of their interview, those goals are some of the things that they're trying to identify. And that's why most times they ask some of these questions. So they are not your enemy. They are just working to see if you're the right fit for them. So you need to take a chill pill. To be honest, you need to calm down, relax. If you don't understand the question, ask for clarity. If you do not hear all the elements of the question, you can ask for a recap. Now, an interview is a two-way street. Ask thoughtful questions. As they are interviewing you, you're also interviewing them. Are they the right company for you? Not that you come and start arguing with them, oh, please. You need to be very smart about it. It's a two-way street. Let it be a conversation. Don't let it be ask me, ask you, ask me, ask you. Let it be, if you're being asked a question, you're also asking them questions as well to show them your enthusiasm, show them your interest in the company. So, for example, I'm going to give you a very critical example. So, for example, they're asking you, oh, like, can you tell us about, like how you have been able to transform sales revenue for your previous company? You cannot tell them, oh, like, is that a current business situation that like XYZ company is facing? Or based off your research, you have seen in the news that this company is trying to do an IPO, for example, right? You can think about how that news that you have can help you answer questions more intelligently or even make the interview more conversational. So, for example, you can ask, is this because of the new IPO or the plans of IPO that this company is trying to do that it becomes relevant that this skill is important, or why this role is, you can just make it a conversation. So if they as they're interviewing you, you're also interviewing them. If they ask you a question and say, oh, like can you use Excel, or I honestly don't have all the examples in my head right now, but I believe you guys understand what I'm trying to say. It's a two-way street. Make it a conversation. Don't make it a pastor and congregation sort of situation. You're learning about the company. You're trying to assess if they have good culture based on the kind of responses they give you. Many times, you see at the end of an interview, the interviewer will ask a prospective employee or the interviewee and say, "Oh, do you have any questions for us?" And you see people saying, "No, I don't have any question." Never say no when that question is being asked to you, because what that tells the recruiter right off the bat is that you do not even have an interest in that role. You do not have an interest in the company, because if you are interested, you will definitely have a question. If you don't even have a specific questions for the company, you can ask a question about the person that is interviewing you. Oh, can you tell me about your experience working at this organization for XYZ time that you've been here? There are a lot of ways to go about it. Asking questions to your interviewer, intelligent questions, thoughtful questions, communicates your value and showcases your interest in the role and that company. You also need to speak calmly. If you're somebody that maybe has a stutter, for example, now this is an experience that I know firsthand. Many times when you go for an interview, people get really nervous. They might not, you know, stutter on a normal day, but because of that nervousness, you begin to see people who are very eloquent speakers begin to stutter in an interview. One thing you can do for yourself is to try to speak calmly. Just pace yourself. You don't have to rush, because some people think that if you rush through the answers, like you seem like you're very intelligent, or you seem, oh, you're very smart. Sometimes I can just talk calmly and I'm making my points. And it's undeniable because you're able to effectively answer my questions and show to me that you have what it takes to do the job. Don't sound robotic. Like I said, make it a conversation. You don't want to sound rehearsed or tell you, oh, can you tell me about yourself? Oh, my name is Joy. I come from. Don't sound robotic. You need to make it seem like, oh, you're interested. You want to have a conversation. Someone is just curious about you. And then one thing I also want to include, this is something I commonly experienced, is using slangs in an interview, especially when you know it's a formal interview. There was one very recent experience I had. I was asking a candidate, can you tell me about a time when you've had competing deadlines for like multiple deliverables? And the person said, we go runner. And I was so stunned. In an interview, you go runner. Hi! I did not even know how to even assess. That candidate scored a 0 on that question, because this is a formal interview. This is not your gist partner. This is not your classmate. This is for a job that will eventually pay you. So it's not child's play. You need to take it seriously, like you mean business. The next thing I want to talk about is posture. This is very important. You need to sit upright and look at the interviewers in the eyes. A lot of people are so shy, they don't even have the nerve to look at the interviewer. And that thing communicates a lack of confidence. What would they do? Would they beat you? They will not beat you. Look at them eyeball to eyeball. Answer the question like you know what you're saying. Oh, can you tell me about yourself? You're looking at the person, you're sitting upright, you're not slouching, you're not sitting at the edge of your seat, communicating nervousness. You're sitting very comfortably on your seat. Some people even try to cross their leg as a show of confidence. You have to also be careful, with that crossing of legs, because some people can read it as arrogance. Read the room and know what works. But the essence of it is that you're looking confident, you're sitting upright, you're not slouching, you're not sitting at the tip of the chair communicating nervousness. Your voice is not shaky. You're looking at the interviewer in the eye. That is the way to connect to the person. You're looking at the gate of their soul, which is their eyes, and you're connecting with them. If it's a virtual setting, ensure that you're staring at the camera. Stop looking up and down the room. Stare at the camera. Don't look at the screen. Look at the camera. You need to look at the camera for you to effectively, pass across your message. Sorry, just give me a second. All right. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can.
Yes.
Hear you.
So my headphone is having a bit of a challenge. I hope you guys can hear me now. Okay. So if it's a virtual setting, don't look at the screen, stare at the camera, as this communicates your confidence and impresses on your interviewer that you're trustworthy and you're credible. Do not get too comfortable, else you lose your composure. Some people get so comfortable in an interview, they start to laugh carelessly. Laugh, ha 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 ha, no composure. You because of except for example, something that usually happens is sometimes some interviewers can be very friendly. They tend to, like make jokes with you, you laugh. Some people will just forget that they're in an interview and they just all all their composure, they just throw it out the window and they start acting very nonchalantly. So don't get too comfortable, even though they are and like you make jokes to like interviewers, still maintain your comportment. Don't come and start over laughing and opening your legs or maybe start behaving in the way you behave in your parlor. I don't know why this is so funny to me because I totally have an experience with this. So, as much as an interviewer can be friendly, you don't want to get too comfortable, else you will lose your composure. In a virtual setting, ensure that your interviewer can see you clearly and that you're in a well lit room. I know I mentioned this previously. Ensure that the best position to stay in an interview if you don't have a ring light is to face the window. Let the light from outside come at you. That is the best position to stay when you're doing a virtual interview. But if you have a ring light or you're in a well lit room, it is still fine. But please don't carry your phone and be walking up and down and be doing an interview. That is very wrong. You need to, be seated, show that comportment. If it is still an interview, regardless of it being a virtual interview. I see this a lot. People are doing interview on their phones. You can just take something and keep the phone as a stand and you're seated and you're looking very serious. If it's a video interview, for example, it's not the ones people you see them, they'll hold their phones and they'll be walking up and down their passage and they'll be doing an interview. That is a complete no. So please, it is much as serious as a physical interview. And then finally, be mindful of non-verbal cues, which is called body language, both from your end and from the end of your interviewer. Now, your interviewer is also looking at your body language. If you're shy, if you're uncomfortable, if you're timid, it will show because you might somewhat be stared somehow, or maybe your face is not very bright, you sound dull. All of these things are non-verbal cues that can communicate to your prospective employer or your interviewer that you're not confident in what you're doing. I hope this point makes sense to everybody. Please let me know if you can hear me.
We can hear you. Really making sense.
Thank you. Making
Thank you,
sense.
sir.
Awesome. Do you have any questions about this slide before we go ahead? Any questions on this slide? Okay, I believe there's no question so far. So let's move ahead to the next thing. Post interviews. Now, what are the things that can stand as a differentiator for you after the interview? There's something called the thank you note. A lot of people don't do this, but this can be something that can change a recruiter's or an interviewer's perception about you. Now, I said here that many candidates end at the interview stage. Now, taking it further can improve your chances by sending a thank you note. Well, dear, so if you know the name of your recruiter, you can use their name. You can personalize it. If you don't know their name, you can say, dear recruitment team, thank you so much for taking the time. So this is something, I mean, this is of course after you've also thanked them. If it's a physical interview, you should have thanked them at the end of the interview. But this thank you note is via an email, right? So that email that they sent you to invite for an interview, you can just reply it reply all. Some people don't know this. If you reply, it only replies to the person who sent it to you, because sometimes they might like the person who sent you the invite for an interview might copy all the interviewers in CC. If you reply, if you click on reply, it only replies to the sender's address. But if people are copied or CC'd in that email, you want to reply all so that everybody can see your thank you notes. So you can just put, dear recruitment team, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me and learning more about my experience and fit for this role. You can reiterate your continuous interest in the role. I want to reiterate my continuous interest in the role and my specific interest in XYZ company to add XYZ value in this regard. Now, here are some of the things you can include in your thank you note. You should highlight things like the highlight of the interview. So if, for example, there was a critical part of the interview that, it was very memorable or was the highlight of that interview, you want to include it in that thank you note. Or the highlight of this interview was when Mr. X asked me about XYZ. I found it very interesting and blah, 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 blah. You can speak to that highlight of the interview. If there was any question that you were asked during the interview that you were not able to effectively answer, you can go and do the research and come back and include it in your thank you note. As per the question asked in the interview around XYZ, here is my, you know, like my well thought out like take on the question. You can just include it there. Now, if there's any material that they requested from you during the interview, so for example, you had mentioned that you did like a certification course and so and so, and I tell you, oh, please send us your certificate. We want to see that, right? Let's say you do not bring it along with you when you come for that interview. You want to attach that document to your thank you notes. And then finally, put a call to action. Oh, I'm really looking forward to the next stage of the interview, or to, or to hear back from you on the outcome of our conversation today. Thank you. And that is the way you can write a thank you note to your interviewer. And this can make you stand out. It can keep you top of mind on that interviewer's like mind, right? The next thing again is you can remind them of the highlight of your interview. Okay, I already like included this in the previous point. But yes, to reiterate, you should remind them of the highlight of your interview. This keeps you top of mind for the recruiter. And you can also politely ask if you can connect with them on LinkedIn. That's assuming you did not do this at the end of your interview, right? You can ask them at the end of the interview, oh, like, can I connect with you on LinkedIn if you don't mind? But if you didn't do that at the interview, you can also do it in your thank you notes. Another important part of the post-interview state is follow-up. So, for example, um, I'm going to share a very personal story to you. So there was a time I was applying for like a job, right? I had applied, but I've not heard back from the company in a really long while. And now, like, I had to send an email, like a follow-up email to the like HR email, and also to the interview invitation mail I got. And that reminder I sent was the reason why my application was reopened. I later discovered this when I went for the next round of the interview. It was the it was the follow-up email I sent that made them reopen my or reconsider my application. These are some of the little things that can really transform or change the game for you in your job hunting journey. After some time, when you've done an interview, send a follow-up. If you've not heard back from the company, send a follow-up mail to know the status of the application. Dear hiring manager, I want to thank you again for inviting me for an interview at so and so date. This is a gentle reminder or a follow-up on the outcome or the status of my application. I'd appreciate any form of communication to help me, you can just create that email and send it to them as a follow-up email. You can also, in that follow-up email, reiterate your continued interest in the role and in the company. I said yes, sometimes following up can save your application or make them reconsider you. Stay in touch with people in that company using LinkedIn, and they can share with you the latest updates on the application process. There are many people that I've stayed in contact with on LinkedIn. They were the ones giving me gist of what's happening with the recruitment. Oh, like, where are they now? Have they sent email? Not yet. Those people in that company are the ones telling you what you need to know about the recruitment process. And then finally, I said here, it is not the end just yet. The fact that your interview went smoothly does not mean that you should stop applying for other jobs. Continue your search for other opportunities. Do not put all your egg in one basket, no matter how good an interview went. Let the feedback that you get, for example, they might give you feedback at the end of the interview. Let that feedback help you improve your application documents. So during the course of the interview, maybe they've mentioned to you, oh, I did not like how you did this in your application, or your CV did not communicate some of the value that you have mentioned here during this interview. Those feedback can help you improve your CV, help you improve your cover letter writing to even land an even more interesting role in the future. So take whatever feedback you receive during the process of your interview and let it improve your application documents. You can also research similar companies and roles using the same application, um, like using the same application documents, and send out applications to similar companies to that company that you've applied to. Even though they're not recruiting, you might just be lucky. So there's something called cold emails or cold applications where you send applications without an advertisement. People do this a lot and it has turned out to success for them. If you have the company email address, you can just send your CV and a cover email like we discussed in the previous session, and expressing your interest in the role, and that can just be an open door to a potential job opportunity, because most job openings in companies are not advertised for. If at the end of your application you get a rejection, accept it with dignity. Rejection is not the end of the world. It is a nudge to do better. I want you to have that mindset that rejection is not denial. How did you say it? Rejection is not denial. Accept it with dignity. See what went wrong, improve on it. And finally, post interview, I just added this here because the personal value for me is pray and commit your job hunting journey to the hands of God. I feel like I've spent so much time on that. I feel it was also important I do that because that is the most important part of this presentation. Understanding how the various nuances of the stages of the interview can contribute to your overall success at the interview. Now, let's look at some of the deal breakers for recruiters in terms of interview. Some of the things that you do, I just say, that's a no, 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 no for me. It's a deal breaker for them. As in, you can never come back from it in the eyes of a recruiter. You can never come back from it in the eyes of an interviewer. Don't do these things when you go for an interview. Number one, like compliments. Who remembers that video that trended one time, like when someone went for an interview and he told the interviewer, "You smell nice" or something like that. I think there was a time that video went viral a lot and it became a meme and people spoke about it a lot. And there were a lot of conversations around how giving compliments can be very risky at interviews. So it is very risky to give interviews. Some people might see it like you're trying to bribe them. Oh, you want me to come and see you or see my good books? That's why you're telling me that my dress is fine. Many times, don't compliment people in an interview. Most, you know how we are Nigerians, we used to think. So now, so let's say you go into the room and you see your like you're a lady, for example, and the interviewer is also a lady, and you see her hair. And, oh, you have a, I really like your hair. She might translate it to, oh, you're just trying to like get into my book, my good books by complimenting my hair. That is not the reason why you're there. You're there for the interview. So anything that does not concern that interview should not concern you, right? Some people might take it nicely. Oh, thank you. But you don't know what impression that person might have of you by virtue of that thing you already did. So always keep it. I said it here. They are risky. Tread carefully. Another deal breaker. So something I also like had to add on this slide is like um interview or like the entire like interview process or recruitment process is like the dating world. So your CV and your cover letter is like your profile, and then someone swipes right on your profile, right? And then the next thing is a conversation. So you don't want to ruin it the way you don't want to go on a date to somebody and then you're having all the red flags. You know how people say, oh, these are my red flags. So there are a lot of red flags. And that's, these are the red flags for recruiters or interviewers when it comes to interviews. Another thing is when your phone rings out loud or you have very loud message notification. This is one of the most annoying things you can do in an interview because it shows your lack of composure, it shows your disorganization. If you are going for an interview, my advice, put your phone off, turn it off. If you don't want to turn it off so you don't miss a call, put it in silent, put it in your bag. If you're a guy, put it in silent, put it in your pockets. You can't be in an interview and your phone is ringing out loud. You can't be in an interview and you're getting notifications from WhatsApp. That is a deal breaker. Is a no-no. Another thing again is dressing inappropriately, wearing the wrong clothes. Like I said, if so, like I was saying, if you're if you know that you're going to a startup, for example, that is not, the formal. So, for example, if you're going for an interview at KPMG or PwC, you know that it is business casual. You're supposed to wear your suit, your tie, your corporate shoe. Nobody will look you funny or look at you funny. But if you're going for an interview, say Microsoft or a company like, say, Google, and you're wearing suit and tie, that is a red flag. It communicates that you don't even know the company you're applying to. You don't even know what you're doing. You're so confused. Another thing again is wearing distracting clothing. So, for example, you guy, why are you wearing a pink suit to an interview? The accepted colors for a corporate suit is gray, navy blue, black, brown, and ash. Any color outside these colors can be very distracting. Ladies, don't wear gowns that are overly flowery. Wearing very colorful gowns, very flashy gowns, or clothing that are exposing your body parts. These are some of the things that can cause you to lose an opportunity that you have worked so hard for. Some people will wear, you know, if you're going for an interview, you see them wear a lot of, you know, accessories, rings, and lots of earrings and neck pieces that can also be very distracting to your interviewer. All of these things are not necessary. Some people go into interview rooms with very high intensive perfumes that can choke somebody. All these things are deal breakers that can just impact the interviewer's impression of you. Even if you speak from now to tomorrow how you're a person of value, it's not going to cut it. It's still not going to cut it. Do the right thing. Another deal breaker is poor hygiene, looking tardy. You see some people, they'll come for an interview, dust all over their hair. Dust. Maybe they've flown back from Awaya to Oshodi and then took another bike, and the whole bustle and tussle of Lagos is on their every being. Some of them are coming into the interview sweating. Some of them, they do not even, if you know that you tend to have body precipitation a lot that can result to body odor, leverage all of the tools, good perfumes, good deodorant. You can't come into an interview smelling of smoke or smelling very dirty. Hmm? That gives a wrong impression already about you. Some people, they will eat. So this one is very funny. Some people eat garlic. You have an interview tomorrow. You then eat garlic and ginger the night before. When you open your mouth, everywhere is smelling. Things are very avoidable. Another thing, being late. You have an interview for 8. Why didn't you come on time? At least be there 10 minutes. And you see the reason why some of these things are deal breakers for interviewers. Another deal breaker, this one is a deal breaker for me personally, is dishonesty or misrepresentation. See, get creative on your CV, but don't lie. Because as an interviewer, I would want to probe certain things that stand out to me on your application packet. And if I'm questioning you about what you have written and you cannot defend what you're writing, that is a red flag for me. It shows that you don't know what you're doing and you're a liar. If the company values of integrity, you have failed woefully. Dishonesty, misrepresentation. Another thing again is someone who is arrogant and overconfident. Let's say you're a rich kid. See, don't come and show off in an interview. If you're looking for a job, be normal. Don't come and start showing, oh, I'm there's a thin line between confidence and arrogance. Don't come into the room like you own the room. There's something called reverence. You don't come into a place and you're already walking like you own the place, or you come into the building and you don't greet people. Don't say hi, good morning. Oh, good morning. Those things, some people start to, I heard some people get interviewed from the gates of the company. Do you greet the gate man? All of those things can count. So please, you know what is right, do it. Another deal breaker again is showing up unprepared, appearing disinterested in the opportunity, negative body language, low energy. They no beg you, make you apply for the job. Forgive my French. Nobody asked you to apply. You are the one that used your hand to apply. Now they've invited you. Now coming with low energy. You are not prepared. They ask you question and you're not answering the questions properly. These things are deal breakers. Another interesting one again is about nothing past employers. So, for example, you're coming from a former place of work and you're going to find a job somewhere else. Now, this question is what they use to catch a lot of people. They'll ask you, why are you interested in joining a company and leaving your previous place of work? What they want to see is, who are you? Some people say, they those people, they don't pay me well. They are very, very bad work culture there. You're already bad mouthing your previous employer. That is a big red flag. Because what it communicates to your recruiter or your interviewer is that when you join them and you eventually leave them to join another company, you will badmouth them too, and that will impact on their own brand reputation. These are deal breakers. Don't do them. Now, I want to show you some of the just general tips and conduct that you should also pay attention to beyond what we have discussed around the stages of an interview. How to conduct yourself and general interview tips. Now, as there are rules and guidelines about many things in life, there are also certain things and behaviors that shouldn't make it to an interview room. First thing, like I said, be polite and cautious to everyone. From the gate, when you come in, greet the gate man, greet the reception. Don't come into a place like you own it. Be cautious, be polite. Do not come to the interview premises with heavy luggage and bags or with valuable items to avoid theft. Now, this one is very important. Some people come to an interview with their bags, a lot of things. I mean, a very interesting experience I had was one time when I came for an interview, and before that like interview, people were supposed to take tests, so we have to drop our bags and all those things somewhere. Before you know it, someone was looking for their laptop, like play. Hey, 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 hey. Nobody knows if it was someone that came for the interview that stole it, whether it was a staff, whether it was someone that came into the organization during the period of that test. So don't go into an interview with valuable item. If you're a lady, go with a small bag. Just put your phone inside or a purse so that you can keep it on your lap when you go into the interview. Go with something that you can walk into the interview room with. You see some people, they'll carry bags, big heavy bags. Those things, you're not going to take it into the interview room. It's not going to look good on you. So travel light, go to an interview light, arrive on time and do a quick bathroom check to ensure you look the part. Now, like I mentioned, some people come into they come into the interview looking very unkept. Some of them, uh, some ladies, because of the bike that they jumped, their wig has shifted from point A to point B. If you come in late to your interview, you might not have time for a bathroom check. So come in on time, ask the receptionist politely for the bathroom. If you know you're coming from a far distance, there are a lot of provisions like tissues and there's water, there's soap. Wash your hands, clean everything that is not looking good. Look the parts. If your wig has moved on, arrange it, recomb it, retouch your makeup as a lady if you're putting on light makeup at that interview. These are some of the things that can change the game for you. Dress appropriately. Use mild perfumes. Don't use choking perfumes and deodorant that will put a recruiter or an interviewer off. Looking good also communicates an impression of cleanliness and orderliness. So, for example, if you're applying for a banking job, for example, and you're looking tattered, it already communicates that you're not somebody that can represent the bank's brand very well. But if you're looking very well kept, your trousers are ironed, your shirts are ironed, your suit's looking properly, like ironed, looking neat, it's not looking washed. All of these things can just put off an interview or communicate, something else to your prospective employer. If it's a physical interview and it's a room, knock before entering the room. Don't just barge in into the room. And something else again, don't sit until you're invited to sit down, or at least the interviewer has already sat down. Some people just walk into an interview room and bam, they've gone to go and sit. The ideal expectation, please, please, can you guys hear me? Or have I been speaking to
We
myself?
can hear you, sir.
Yes, I can hear
Yes,
you.
you
I
can.
can.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So if it's a physical interview and you're entering a room, knock before entering. And don't just rush to go and sit down. The ideal thing is to shake your interviewer or greet them, good morning. Shaking communicates that, like confidence that, you're there for the interview, you know what you're there for. Greet the interviewers with a smile and a firm handshake. Something else to also note, it is advised to switch off your phones or keep them in silent mode. Do not touch your phone during the interview. It's a no-no. Show that you can listen. Show positive interest. You can do that by nodding when they're asking you a question. You can be nodding your head to communicate to your interviewer that you're listening to what you're saying and you're present. Stare directly at who is speaking. Don't look around the room. And if an interviewer introduce themselves, pick their names. Talk about that saying, okay, now this can be also very tricky. Some people tend to do sa a lot in an interview. This boils down to the research. You also need to know if the company operates a first name basis, or you can even say, oh, like, hi, Mr. Shola. If they introduce themselves as Shola and you don't want to call them by their name, you can say, hi, Mr. Shola. Or you can, oh, hi, Shola. Nice to meet you. Put a name to the person. It communicates that you are intentional, you're listening, and you know what they are doing. Some people don't even know the name of their interviewer at the end of the interview. Like, just imagine I introduce myself at the beginning of the interview and we don't speak about anything relating to me. At the end of the interview, you don't tell me, oh, thank you, Shola, or thank you, Praise. That is going to leave an impression on my heart. Oh, you actually paid attention. You listen and you even know my name. The last thing I want to mention here is keep your answers concise and back them up with examples or with documents if you have them. See, don't just say something, show it. If you said you did XYZ, and that's why like when we're discussing CV last week, we were speaking about achievements, showing your work with numbers and with figures to quantify your impact and your achievements. So don't just say something, show that you can do it. Give examples when you've done it. Show documents if you have it. Now, leverage the STAR framework, especially for behavioral questions. And these are just a few things that you need to also take into consideration. And then before I go into like interview questions and answers, do we have any questions around some of the things I've discussed around deal breakers and overall tips around interviews? Any questions, concerns so far? Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes, you can hear you. No question from my end.
So there's no question, but I think someone asked the question in the chat.
Okay, so I can also see the chat right now. Can you read out the question for me, please? And I want to believe the fact that we don't have any question is communicating to me that you guys are following everything I'm discussing so far.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yes, sir. The person asks that who should initiate a handshake?
Who should initiate a handshake? Oftentimes, it's going to be you as a prospective employee, but you also so that's a very dicey question because some interviewers might not want to shake you, but bringing out your hand is communicating some level of confidence to your prospective employer, to your recruiter, to the interviewer, because stretching your hand forward and say, "Oh, hi, good morning." You're stretching your hand forward. It's communicating to them that you are confident, right? And it will be unruly of the HR person to leave your hand hanging. Many times they would not, because it will tell about it will speak about the culture at that organization. Handshakes are very formal way of greeting people in the corporate world, in the corporate environment. So oftentimes when you come into an interview room, if they're not extending their hand to shake, you can do it as well. But if you're not, confident or comfortable doing it, you might decide to skip that part. It's not a must that you must do everything. Just read the room and know what works. I hope that answers that question for that person who asked that question. So we've just spoken about interview deal breakers, and we've spoken about some of the tips and conduct of an interview. Now let's look at some of the likely interview questions that people tend to experience in an interview. So I only picked out these 3 questions to speak to specific things, and you get to see why I did that. Now, the first question is the most common question that people get asked in an interview, and it is usually the first question that people get asked in an interview. Now, what is the intention of that question? Now, I want you to understand this from the standpoint of the interviewer. What are they trying to achieve with this question? The intention of this question is basically to sum up the candidate's elevator speech. This should be a discussion of the candidate's resume and general background in a maximum of 2 to 3 minutes. So your tell me about yourself is basically supposed to be your elevator pitch. And I want to believe some of us have heard what an elevator pitch is. It is like a value proposition statement that communicates your value to a person in a really short time frame. That is the intention of a tell me about yourself. They want to get to know you. The tell me about yourself is not an opportunity to tell them, oh, I'm from Imo State, Nigeria. I am one of 5 children. My mother is this. I live in Bagada. All those things are irrelevant to the job. What is the expectation or ways to answer this question? Now, let's look at this. Ideally, you should start with your name. Oh, my name is Praise, right? Your full name, of course. I have a background in, I'm starting with my qualification. So like I said, start with your name. Then the next thing you can do is to speak about your qualification, which is what even qualified you in the first place to be interviewed for that role. Or I have a background in accounting and have an MBA from Context Law of Business in leadership and strategic management. Then the next thing to typically go after, stating your background to then be your relevant work experience. Remember, I said relevant experience. Don't go and start listing things that are not relevant to that job. So if you're applying for the role of a customer service person, you're only going to highlight the experiences that are relevant to the job, which means previous customer experience roles or roles that has transferable skills to that new role you're applying for. And this is typically 2 to 3 experiences, depending on the time that you have. So like I have so you can say I currently work at XYZ company where I help them achieve XYZ. So you see, communicating my value. I work at XYZ company where I help them achieve 20% growth in sales on a quarter-on-quarter basis. Prior to joining this company, I worked at XYZ company where I did. So you're stating the work experience and the achievement you had. Are you seeing how that is communicating value to your interviewer? After listing out some of your experiences, you can then chip in your career aspiration. Oh, I look forward to, to a career where I'm able. So, like if you see me, like what I like to say is, oh, I'm very passionate about, you know, like I'm very passionate about problem solving and business success. That's something like I like to say because it is summing up my career aspiration. Or you can say, oh, I aspire to be, a global customer service or I aspire to be. So, for example, if the role you're applying for is a customer service role or like the customer experience, you can say, "Oh, I aspire to be, a professional customer experience expert. I aspire towards a career in customer experience and like user design, for example, right? You're speaking about your futuristic career aspiration, and then the next thing you then talk about is why you've applied to the company. I applied to for this role because I want to achieve XYZ and apply to this specific company because of one, two, three things I like about your company. And this is how I believe I can be of value to your organization. And that's a very interesting way to introduce yourself in 2 to 3 minutes to an employer. Like I said, no relevant information. Don't tell us I'm one of 5 siblings, I'm two of 10 siblings, I live in Bagada, Nigeria, I'm from Imo. Nobody cares. These things, like we mentioned in the CV segment, introduces biases to the conversation. Another format you can try, this is something I learned recently, is you can state your name, what you've done or achieved in the past, the problem that you're solving with the skill set that you have, and a call to action. My name is Praise. I've worked in management consulting for a little over 5 years, where I help clients to solve some of their most interesting problems or some of their most challenging problems across various industries and across, like various sectors. I'm looking forward to joining an organization where my skills are being challenged, or I'm looking forward to join an organization, a global organization where I can expand and express my skill sets beyond the shores of my country. Just give a reason and a call to action. You've said what, so that is also an elevator pitch, but in a different format. You've said what you like what you can achieve, or what you've done or you've achieved. You've said the kind of problems that you're looking forward to solving for any prospective employer, and then you're saying a call to action. A call to action can also be, I'm looking forward to joining your company. I'm looking forward to joining Microsoft, where I can leverage my skills in problem solving to bring about a fusion of technology and education, for example. And that can be a call to action very specific to the organization. And that's a very sweet way to introduce yourself to your interviewer. I hope this makes sense. We're going to, have a simulation of this. I think later today we have an interview simulation. Like we're going to be practicing some of these things that we have learned today. Another question that used to always scare people a lot is when they ask them, "Oh, what are your strengths and weaknesses?" I get a lot of this. A lot of people are usually afraid to answer this question because they don't know how to do it. Now, the very critical way, or what is the intention of this question? For strength, they want to assess your knowledge and depth of your skills. How well do you know what you can do? How well do you know your skills or the skills that you possess, and how can you translate those skills to value? That's what they're trying to figure out. What are your what can you do? What are your strengths? You tell them, oh, I am the best customer experience person you can ever hire because of XYZ thing I've done in the past. And this is how I can bring that experience to your organization to add value to you. Do you get? For weaknesses, they just want to see if you're a human being. Nobody is perfect. If you say I don't have any weaknesses, that's zero on that question. Everyone has a weakness. But then there's a way to answer the question around weakness. For your strengths, like I said, highlight your key strengths that are relevant to the job with examples, where you've shown that strength, or how you have demonstrated that strength, and how it can translate to value for your prospective employer. That's how to answer a strength question. Then for the weakness question, speak to weaknesses that do not directly hinder your performance at that job. So if you're applying for the role of a customer service person, for example, you cannot say that your weakness is public speaking. That weakness is very bad. Find another weakness, because that weakness can hinder you to perform on that job that you're applying for. So when you think about weaknesses, think about weaknesses that are not directly linked to your success at that job. So for example, when I was applying for a job, my typical go-to is procrastination, because a lot of people procrastinate. But then there's a way to say it. State a when you state a weakness, so when you highlight a generic weakness, you need to say what you are currently doing to improve on that weakness. Don't leave it hanging. Don't just say, oh, my weakness is procrastination. You have to say, oh, but I'm currently taking courses around time management, or I'm currently exploring time management applications on my phone to help me keep track of my priorities and help me achieve some of my goals. You can name them. There's Trello, there's Asana, there are a lot of tools now. Use your alarm clock. You can even say, oh, my weakness is social media distraction, for example. This is a weakness that everybody has. Everybody is different about social media. What you're now doing is that you have an app on your phone that locks your phone when you want to do focused work. This is already showing the weakness and how you're already working on that weakness, and how that can help you even perform better on that job. I hope this makes sense. And then the last question I want to also highlight again is the behavioral question. A lot of times you get to see this in an interview. Tell me about a time when you've done this. Tell me about a time when you've done that. Tell me about, if you remember the definition of a behavioral question is they are trying to see what you have done in the past and how those experiences can help you succeed in that role. That is what they are testing for in a behavioral interview. The intention is to assess a candidate's competence in taking initiative and going above and beyond. So for this particular question now, tell me about a time when you found a better way to do something. Tell me about a time when you found a better way to do something. This can just be like one interview question. Now, the purpose of this question is basically to assess a candidate's competence in taking initiative. How can you think outside the box, going above and beyond to achieve a goal? That is the essence or the intention of this question. Now, the best way to answer any behavioral question is using the STAR framework or using the STAR technique of answering interview questions. Now, what is the STAR technique of answering interview questions? STAR stands for situation, task, action, and result or reflection. This is a new one that they just introduced. Like I said, I always give you latest updates on what's happening in the job market. So for situation, you're setting context. So let me try to answer this question. Tell me about the time when you found a better way to do something. You can say, oh, during my internship at KPMG Nigeria, I was given a task to clean an Excel file, right? It was my first time, like leveraging that tool to clean data, and it was such a, huge concern for me. Or I'll take it again. So I'm trying to explain this thing in a way that it will make sense for you. So the situation basically sets the context of the story. So you're telling them when that has actually happened before. Tell me about a time when you've done something. You're actually telling them a time when you've done it. So you're setting context. You're telling a story. Oh, in my final year at the university, I was like working on my final year research paper, and I needed to do data analysis using Excel. But I soon like hit a roadblock when the technicality of the analysis I needed to do was beyond the capacity of Excel. I started to learn how to use other tools like SQL or Python to effectively analyze that data. Now, I've answered the second one.
Bye.
Someone is speaking? Is someone saying something? Please, can you mute your mic if you're not speaking? Please, you speaking. Okay. So the tax is stating what your responsibility is. If you look at this second story I just mentioned now, I had already set context and I've stated what my responsibility was. The context was in my final year, I was supposed to do a project. What am I supposed to do? Analyze data using Excel. But then I faced a problem because I couldn't use Excel to do the data. And I had to start learning other. See, I've already even answered it with the STAR technique already. I've already said what action did I take in that situation. I started to learn other data analytics tools that can help me effectively analyze that data. And then I will now go and say, oh, at the end of it, I was able to effectively complete that data analysis, which gave me an A in my project and very strong recommendations from my supervisor. If you want to add an extra layer, you can say, looking back at that experience, what I learned is having to not let little challenges stop me from achieving my goal. Some people don't do the reflection. This reflection is mostly important when there was no result. Maybe they tell you, tell me about a time when you have failed at something. You know that there is no final result for failure. What you can speak to is reflection because you've actually failed. There was no result. What you can now say is, based off this failed experience, I've learned to pick up myself in like when I'm falling and do better. That is a reflection. So that's why I put it as slash. It can either be result or reflection, or it can be the both of them. I hope this has been very insightful. And this brings us to the final part, which is the interview simulation, which we're going to have later today. But based off everything we've talked about, I believe that you now have a better understanding of what it is an interview is, how to go about it, how to prepare for it, and how to ace it. We're going to be having an interview simulation where I'm going to be speaking to a couple of you. We're going to have a live interview session and everybody watches and gives feedback on how you perform. I'm going to be asking you certain questions based on the things that we've learned here today. So I hope this has been very helpful. Do we have any questions based on everything we've talked about today?
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, I'm right. I have a quick question. Sorry, I actually joined late. Now, I would want to take an example and then ask the question directly. I was scheduled for an interview, and due to distance, I sent a mail requesting that I was given an option for virtual interview. But I didn't get a response. So I want to know, is it okay to for ask for an option, an alternate option for um a scheduled interview? That's what I want to know. Thank you.
That is a very interesting question. So it's not a crime, to be honest. It's just that the peculiarities of the market that we're currently in, which is Nigeria and Africa, some of those people can read it as arrogance. But to be honest, based on global best practice, it is not a crime to request for a different alternative to an interview. Some companies might not honor it, right? Because they feel like they're the ones that want to bring you on board. So you should be the one coming to them because you applied for the role, right? Many times they would not move, but a company that has a good culture would engage you further. Why are you requesting for a virtual interview? If you give them a very good reason why, they would reschedule or they would switch to a different mode of an interview. They would switch to a different mode of an interview. But many times most companies in Nigeria don't have that, you know, um, leeway to just tell you, oh, okay, we'll switch it for you because you might be competing against multiple applicants. So if you're not going to be available for the interview, it's even helping them to cut down on the number of people that they're going to speak to. So it's a very dicey thing to do. But my advice would be if you can attend the interview physically, you can go for it. Because if you don't respond to your emails, try to see if you can get a telephone contact and see if you can reach out to the HR directly. But if you cannot, then the there's really nothing you can do. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, please go ahead. Do you have questions? From Anu Hamad Lawal. Please ask your question. Ahmed.
Hello, sir.
Hello, who's speaking?
Joy.
Sorry, who?
My name is Joy. Joy.
Joy. Hi. I can hear you,
Yes.
Joy. Just go ahead.
Okay. Because I'm someone who can't work effective, who can't work effective under pressure. So can I put inability to work under pressure as a weakness?
That's a very interesting question. To be honest, wait, but what do you think? Sure, what do you think that would do for your application?
So I did not get you.
I would say, like, what do you think will be the outcome of that if you say, because I mean, I think that that's not a good weak, it's not a good weakness example. I think you should find a better one because saying that can put off your interviewer because employers in Nigeria, in Africa, look at people who are going to work because sometimes work pressure comes. You cannot avoid work pressure. if you want to get into the workforce, sometimes work pressure comes. So if you see that you don't like to work under pressure, even though that might be the case, and it's better not to say it at that initial stage. If you come into the organization, then you can now maybe express to your team members, oh, I don't really like working under pressure, and then this is how I like to work. But if you're planning to come into an organization, you don't want to say something that gives you bad reputation already. So you always want to look for a better weakness to speak about.
All right, thank you, sir.
Awesome. Please, who's the next person? Please ask your question. I think I saw a Jama or somebody.
This is Nonya, and I'm raising my hand. I don't know if I can.
Yes, please go ahead, Nonya. Yeah, go ahead.
Regarding this issue, this age issue, where they'll tell you that okay, this is the limit of the age they are looking for. Sometimes me personally, I just avoid it. So, but sometimes they tell you that okay, just go for it. In case you go for that kind of, like you apply for that kind of job, even if you have crossed the age limit, when you're asked, or when they now start asking you, okay, why did you apply? How do you tackle that situation?
Why did you apply, even though you are not like within the age requirement?
Yes.
I feel like that is a very interesting question, to be honest. It's an avenue for you to sell your markets even better. Like, yes, I am above the age, like whatever, but first of all, you can say, oh, I do not believe in the limitations of age. I believe I'm able to effectively deliver on this job, regardless of my age limit for one. You can then speak to, oh, I believe I have the work experience, I have the skills to effectively. So it's an avenue for you to sell yourself if they ask you that question, right? So yes, please throw a Hail Mary, send in application, even though you're above the age requirement. Sometimes it might work in your favor. It might just be how good you are. They will move protocols for your sake. Those things happen a lot. I've seen a lot of times where people, they will tell you, oh, 3 years work experience. Somebody with 1 year work experience applied, but because of how amazing that person was, they gave him the job, even though 3 years was the minimum requirement. So age is nothing. If you applied and they invited you for an interview, it says something about the quality of your application. And then once they ask you that question, sell your market to them. Water down the age issue like it's nothing. I hope that helps.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm seeing a question on the chat. It says, please, is it okay that one should send a confirmatory message after sending one CV to confirm if one was selected for interview? I mean, it's okay to always send follow-up, or like dear hiring manager, just like just reaching out to like know the status of my application, which was submitted as XYZ dates, looking forward to your response. There's no harm in doing that. So yes, you can always send a message to your prospective interviewer. Someone says, like, why should we hire you? Is it a good question? Why should you hire is a good question. It's an avenue for you to sell yourself to your prospective employer. They're asking you, what value are you bringing to the table? That's what that question means. Why should we hire? Why you are not the next person? What makes you different? What is your unique value proposition to us as a company? That's what that question is. So if you ask that question, please shoot your shot. Give them a reason why they should hire you. Okay, that's all the message from the chat. Do we have any other questions on the chat? Awal Muhammad, your hand is still up. Do you have any question? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir, we can.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
So I'm surprised there are a lot of questions in this class. Is it that you guys did not understand what I thought, or it was very easy and you understood everything I shared, or like what's the feedback? Right has a question. Yeah, please go ahead.
This is really not a question, but let's put it like this. It's more like a question. Now, first, I would start with saying that Nigeria itself is a, a very dicey situation, if I should permit me to use put her in this context, this situation, because our system here is really nothing to write home about. Now, as regards this age limit, I think this is one reason why productivity in organizations are declining. They are coming to a decline because I don't see why a company or an organization would go for a lesser age person, um, taking that as a priority, or yes, as a priority over one who is more experienced and more hands on duty on the job because of age, using that as a factor not to get one who is like above age limit into the organization. I believe that is why we are having less productivity in our organizations today. And I would always want to pray that we get things fixed. Now, down to the basic question. Now, you once said that, what's it called? Dishonesty is a deal breaker for you. Now, when the other lady asked if she should say um, her inability to work under pressure is a challenge for her. You said no, that she shouldn't say it at first, but get into the organization and then find a way to fix it. I want to know, is this not a dishonesty? Is this not a
Okay.
dishonesty already?
So let me that's a very that's a very interesting question. Okay, so first thing I'm gonna try to speak to the first thing you spoke about. Most times when you see age restrictions for a job, it's usually for entry level roles. Many times, when people are hiring experienced people, age don't play again. It's more around their experience. Now, but the thing is, there's some certain nuances around education in Nigeria. Some people do not get the opportunity to go to school on time, and before you know it, they're running out of age, right? That is why, but then the rationale of the company is that people within this age bracket they have less responsibilities. They are willing to commit to the organization and giving the very first few years of their lives to the company, without so much responsibilities. Because if you're hiring a 30 plus person that has multiple competing responsibilities, for example, they might not be able to give you their 100% in that role. So, but most times age restrictions are usually for people applying for entry level roles. And many times the rationale for the company is that they want people who are young, fresh out of school. They want to start up their career, and the company is willing to invest in training and growing them. So they don't want people who are going to, you know, be very distracted at that early stage of their career. And I feel like that's the major rationale for the age limitation a lot of times. Yes, they need to begin to think about certain nuances around education, strike, because sometimes strike can also like impact like age limitation. By the time you have like gone to school for 6 years instead of 5 years, by then you're coming out, you're already above age limits. All of these nuances, are some of the reasons why that people just say, we'll just give it a shot and see how it goes. Now, to the second question around dishonesty. Now, the major thing I'm talking about is around you not being able to defend something that you already said you can do on your CV, for example. There's some certain things that it's not everything that your interviewer knows about you. The interview is not going to be the microscope to scoop around and find every single detail about a person. Where the deal breaker comes in is when you see something on your CV, I can do XYZ, I can do XYZ, and then you come to the interview and the interviewer is asking you questions to validate some of the things you said you can do, and you're not able to defend yourself. That's when it becomes a problem. But for the case of tell me about a weakness that you have, you're not going to wash all your dirty linen outside. If it's like that, everybody should come and start telling everybody what are their challenges or the struggles they're having. It doesn't work like that. That's not dishonesty. in that situation, they're giving you an open check to still sell yourself. You cannot now use your hand to shoot your own self. When you know that the reason why you are looking for a job, or you cannot always escape work pressure. Work pressure is going to come. So if you say that you don't like working under pressure, it's already given a fiber. You don't like to work, you don't want stress. The way it might be for you is that you don't like being mounted upon. You like your work being organized, giving you enough time to do the work. Many times it might not be the case. So it is better to speak about something else that is a weakness for you when you get into the workforce, or you go into your team. You can now have a conversation with your manager and say, so, oh, see, manager, see, there's also something else I don't, that I struggle with at work. But this is how I like to work. I like when my work is, spaced out to give me enough time to work and all of that. And they begin to then look for how to manage you as a team member. If it's not working for them, many times they'll pull you out of the organization. But what I'm saying is that question around your weakness is an open check to still communicate your value as a person. So if you are now going to say, oh, I don't like to work under pressure, what are you doing about not working under pressure? I'm going to say, you can still say it, I don't like working under pressure, but you need to convince the person that you're working on that. So now start learning how to work under pressure. If you don't convince that person effectively, then the essence of that question is lost. I don't know if that makes sense for you. You can speak to any weakness if you like, but you have to be smart about it. You have to be strategic about it. If you say something that is a weakness, be able to communicate how you're converting that thing that is a weakness to now becoming a strength for you by virtue of what you're doing. I hope that makes sense, Bright.
Yes, it does. Thank you very much. And in a nutshell, I would want to say be smart. That is, I think that is, what's it called? Now, a quick one. As a human resource personnel, do you think working under pressure should be acknowledged? Because in medical science, there's a whole lot working under pressure can do to your brain, your productivity, your mental health, your emotions, and a whole lot. Now, as a human resource person, now you are to build human capital, isn't it? Now, is it advice, or would you recommend or applaud an organization whose what's it called, whose work ethic is built on pressure, 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 pressure? Don't you think it will affect the productivity of that capital you're trying to bring in? Like the capital in context here is employees. Do you think pressure, a work environment that requires pressure or that involves so much pressure, is really healthy for career growth and productivity?
These are very, very controversial, very dicey questions you're asking. Okay, cool. Now, the thing is, we need to first of all define what pressure is. What is pressure? What would you describe as pressure? Because there's some people that are hiding under the guise of pressure. They're hiding their laziness under the guise of pressure. There is a certain amount of expectation that you're supposed to. There's a certain amount of time and effort you're supposed to put into work as a person. If you're not putting in that certain amount of time and effort, and you're not hiding under the guise of pressure, there's a misalignment there. If you want to work for somebody, you need to understand that you need to bring out your time and effort to do the work. When it becomes toxic is when they are not constantly, the company is either not compensating for the extra time you're putting, they're not taking care of your well-being, and they do not even care. See, there's a kind of company that you will be in by virtue of the level of compensation and intentionality of that company. You will be the one begging them to give you work. Many people, especially like they like to say that in the workplace, Gen Zs, they always hide in the guise of, many of them are just hiding. their laziness under the guise of work pressure. Work is what it is. It is work. Sometimes it can get intense because what is happening is that you're converting knowledge into value many times. You're spending your time and you're converting because they are paying you. You agreed that if I work 8 hours a day, I get paid XYZ amount. You were informed of what the job description is. You can now come into the workplace and expecting to work at your own style and pace. So it's a very, interesting dynamic that you need to be careful around. Now, there's also the part of a company having a terrible work culture that it is inhumane. They do not compensate employees effectively. They do not provide resources for their well-being. They do not do what they ought to do. They do not do what they ought to do to ensure that employees are happy. I'll give an example. Those who work in investment banking, they can work 24 hours at a stretch, non-stop. They work 24 hours at a stretch, non-stop. But the company compensates for it. They are aware of what is required to do that job. They signed up for it. They agreed. They signed the contract. If you know how much they pay those guys, see, like McKinsey and Company here, sometimes their consultants work into the night, 3 a.m., 2 a.m., because of the need to serve clients in other like continents that are that have different time zones. The company compensates for all those things. Many times, employees see what the company is doing. They see that the company is appreciating their work and they even put in more work. When it becomes a problem is when you're putting in the effort and the company is not pulling their weight at the same pace. That's when it becomes an issue. So if your normal work, what you're supposed to do as a person, you're not doing it, and you're saying I don't like to work under pressure, there is a problem with you because it is work, it is not party. You're not going there to go and dance. You're going there to work and earn money. Nothing that brings value is easy. If you think staying on Excel and working 9 to 5 is such a hassle, and at the end of the month, they pay you 200 and 250K, 300K, go and ask the bricklayer that works 7 to 7 and still earn menial salary. So these conversations are very dynamic. You need to also be very careful around the nuance. Some people, like I said, hide under the guise of laziness and say, oh, work pressure, work pressure, work pressure. I don't like work pressure. It is work. Sometimes you cannot avoid the pressure. But what makes it easy is when the company compensates for some of the things that you're doing because you saw what is required. You saw what they asked you. Can you do it? You said, yes, I'm the best person. I can do this job. Give me this job that they've given you. And you don't want to do the work. Who will do it for you? But you want to collect salary. So you just need to understand that if the company cares about you, the company is doing what they ought to do to ensure that you're comfortable, you're doing well. Please give them back the time for their money. Give them time for their money. It's when you begin to say that they do not care, your company does not care. If you work overtime, they do not. Some companies pay people. I know some companies, if you work late into the night, like work like 7, you get paid overtime. If you come to work over the weekend, just your own personal, just to achieve your own personal objective. Because at work, you have KPIs. You have your key performance indicators. How are you performing as a person? What are you doing? If you're not achieving those KPIs, what are you doing in that place? And many times, this thing I say work pressure is just a poor time management skill of people. They don't know how to manage their time. And when deadlines are now approaching, you say, hey, work, want to kill me. But if you had planned effectively and you have done what you're supposed to do at the given time, you would effectively be fine. I'm not disputing the fact that some organizations can be very inconsiderate. You just need to weigh it on the scale of humanity. You as a person, if you're the one that had that company and you're performing the way you're performing, would you like it? And the company themselves also need to understand that if this person is working this hard and they're not getting paid, would this talent stay? So that conversion is two-sided. The company is thinking about it. You as an employee, you're thinking about it too. So you need to do what makes it work for the both of you. You're achieving your KPIs, you're meeting your timeline. Nobody will have a problem with you. It's when you're not seeing that the company is appreciative of the work you're doing. Maybe there are like benefits around, bonuses, people get leave, all these employee benefits that people are supposed to get. If you're not getting them, then it begins to question the culture of that organization that you're in. I've been speaking for long, and I hope that makes sense. Now, you guys have taken
Yes,
my
it
30 minutes
does.
break. I'm supposed to rest for 30 minutes before coming back for the interview simulation. I'll take back this time. Is Shaifa on the call?
Yes, I am.
Shaif? Oh, okay. Hi, Shaifa. So we're supposed to have the uh, interview simulation by 12:30, and it's already 12:20. What would you suggest we do?
Should you just continue and then close early?
Okay. All right, let's do that. Doesn't take water. I've been talking.
Okay, so while Praise is taking water, I just want to say something, right? And this is from an employee point of view. So a couple of times we have friends who would come and tell you how good their company is, how they used to do stuff for them, especially if you're the type of person that likes to complain about what your own company is doing. So the truth is, everything has pressure, even school. Trust me, when it's time for your exams or your tests, in fact, no matter how prepared you are under pressure for the time being that you have to write that, right? So there are cases whereby we cannot actually take it out completely because people function in some places so that the lives of a lot of other people can be easy. Talk about the banking sector. Trust me, there are things that people do and it makes your own life very easy, but you do not know how much work has to literally go into that, right? Now, those people are feeling the pressure. You take them out completely. How would the system function? So basically, yes, there is pressure. There is, just like Chris said, the company has to have a good structure to pay to compensate for that pressure. But do not ever let anybody make you believe that there is no pressure in work. And then for some jobs, it's not all the time. The pressure might just be for like a project you're working on, right? So the minute that project is done, you're back, right? So there is always pressure in anywhere. It's always there. It's anybody that tells you that my job, I'm just chilling, it's that person's lying. That's a big lie. Even CEOs, they do things you do not see. They are not just taking vacations and getting large pay and just resting. No, there are things going on behind the scenes that is making sure that the companies runs, deals are being signed that we do not see. These guys are going 3 a.m., 4 a.m., having meetings that you do not know about. Okay, so I just wanted to throw that in there. So, Praise, are you back?
Yeah, that was very spot on. That was very, very spot on, Shaifa. If you know how much thinking goes into running a business, or the kind of strategic effort those senior executives put into uh, um, um making things work, yeah, you would not even want their job. You would not want their job. Do you know how difficult it is to think through economic challenges? If anything happens in this economy now, it's not you, the employee, that would um that would bear the brunt of it. The CEO that has to think about how to make it work. Senior executive. So there's no easy pass with work. If you're going to work, you know that it's work, you're coming to work. It's not play, it's not party. But then the company also has to show some level of, concerns and compensation. So let's do, so we're going to do an interview simulation. So let's have a volunteer. This person, Awam Mohammed, has been raising his hand since the beginning of this meeting. It's like you want to lead us in this interview simulation. If you don't bring down this your hand in the next 5 minutes, you would start us off. You will start us off this interview simulation. Let's say, please, how do we select people who are going to run the simulation?
Sorry, Chris, could you say that again? I couldn't hear. Sorry, my second device, internet has gone off on that one.
Oh, okay, sorry. I was saying, like, can you like, how do we like go about the simulation effort? Choosing who would do the simulation or who ask them to volunteer.
Let's ask them to volunteer.
Okay. So if you want to volunteer to be our lab rats, please. In fact, Bright, let's ask you this question. Bright, you're number one. Come on and defend all these things you're saying. Bright, where is Bright? Bright is the one coming up. Okay, we have Margaret. Margaret is raising her hand.
Wow.
What are you saying, Bright? Eh?
I'm available. Let me try.
Okay, so for this interview simulation, you have to turn on your video.
Wow.
Hi, Margaret. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Awesome. So please turn on your video and let's have the simulation. So the first candidate is Margaret. So Margaret, I'm going to give you a persona. Can you hear me, Margaret? You're on mute, Margaret.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to give you a persona and you're going to work with that persona. So the name of my company is Net Factory Company, and you're applying for the role of a customer success manager, right? Do you know what customer success is? Okay, so let me just make it. So let's just say you're applying for the role of a customer service assistant at Net Factory. So let's say your work experience or like what the expectation, or so for example, the JD that Net Factory has put out is that we're looking for somebody who can take calls like coming into the organization, reach out to to students who have trainings and ensure that they are aware of their trainings. Like stuff like that. They can answer questions around the programs that we have available. They can answer questions from sponsors or people who are seeking to inquire about the programs that we offer at Net Factory. So that is the persona that you're taking up. And I am the HR manager at Net Factory, and we're going to have this simulation together. All right. So I'm just going to, so now I just let you into the Zoom meeting, right? And I'm seeing you. Oh, hi. Hi, Margaret. How are you? Margaret, I cannot hear you. Your network is a bit out of place. Can you hear me?
Okay.
Okay. So I received your CV for the role of a customer service personnel at Net Factory. Thank you for sending us your application. I just want to get a sense of who you are, Margaret. Can you tell me about yourself, please?
So my name is Margaret. I have an experience as auditor in my company. I work I have an experience as a auditor in my company. I try to
Okay, Margaret, there's a lot of noise from your background. I cannot hear you. Please, who is speaking, please? Khadija. Please mute your mic if you're not speaking. Margaret, yes, let's give it a shot again. So can you tell me about yourself, Margaret? Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Margaret, and I work as an auditor in my company. I assist in carrying out the daily activities of my company by checking that they are complying with the initial plan of the company, of the budget. I also ensure that all applications that have been approved I for being paid, areas have been invented. I also ensure that all and I work myself. I work to ensure that this work to report to my MD about it and ensure that there is no wastage, that all company assets and corporate assets in a safe and good place. My aim in life is to be a good auditor, and so I also plan to have an ICANN in accounting. My weakness is procrastination. I
Okay.
procrastinate.
Okay, Margaret, I'm going to stop you there very quickly. Well done. So I want to get a sense of if everyone is following. So can we have hands up for what Margaret did wrong or what Margaret did right? What are the things that she can improve on? Let's have some feedback from the group. Okay, yes, let's have Noye. Hi, Noye, please go ahead.
Yes, the only thing I think she did, what I can say or what I heard from her, I think she diverting away from the job description she's supposed to have. Like, yeah, she's applying for the customer service and she's talking about her applying for ICANN.
Very good. Very good. Very well. Very good point you picked up.
There's not
Please go ahead.
Of her strengths and weaknesses, and she has already started mentioning them.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was good. I'm gonna do we have any other person that wants to say something around how like Margaret has performed so far?
Yeah,
Anyone?
actually, hello.
Yeah.
Actually, she tried, but the aspect of mixing up, she's trying to mix up different things. She's not done with her weakness. Then she jumped to ICANN, as that other of my sisters already said. And I think for her to say applying for ICANN, I think, is it not an ICANN certificate or? So I'm just, she's mixing up things.
Okay. Okay, so let me teach us something. There's something called the sandwich method of providing feedback. And then there's also something called constructive feedback, right? So these are two things I want to talk about. So let's talk about constructive feedback. Constructive feedback is when you're providing feedback to somebody, you let them know what they've done wrong and how. So if you say what they've done, you tell them how exactly that thing was done and how they can improve on it. If you're telling somebody to improve, if you're telling someone about their weakness or something they are doing wrong, and you're not giving them practical steps on how they can improve on that thing, then the essence of that feedback is lost. That is the first thing I want to speak about. Then the second thing is the sandwich method of providing feedback. So before you get on board to tell the person what they've done wrong, it's best to tell them, oh, here are a few things that you did really well. However, here are some areas of improvement, the areas I think that you can, improve or, challenge yourself a bit more. You see the way I presented it now, that person would not be apprehensive to your feedback. Oh, don't tell me. Some people get really defensive when you tell them you are doing something wrong. They say, who told you? And then it becomes very defensive. But when feedback is provided like that, it is more receptive. People are open to hearing what you have to say. So I want us to have that in mind when we're talking about what one person did or what one person did not do as a way to provide feedback to them. So very well done, Margaret. I want to applaud your confidence to take a stab at this. It's not very easy to be the first person to go. Some of the things I think you did really well was the fact that, you were quite audible. You seemed confident in the way you were presenting some of the things that you spoke about. Now, however, here are some areas I think that you can do better or improve upon or challenge yourself a bit more. The first thing, based on what we've learned today, is that when we're having a virtual interview, we need to stare at the camera. We need to stare very critically at the camera. The second thing I also want to mention is when the only question I asked you was, tell me about yourself. Now, that is an elevator pitch that ideally should take 2 to 3 minutes of you summarizing your profile and why you're the best person for the job, and why you're even interested in the role that you're applying for. The third thing is I felt like you deviated from the persona that we both agreed upon. You're applying to Net Factory as a customer experience person or a customer service person. I feel like maybe, okay, something that might have happened is you didn't have enough time to think about some of the examples or stories you want to give, but I felt like you should have maybe tweaked your story a bit to suit, that like persona we both agreed upon. Now you said that you're an auditor. Maybe if you had said, okay, so for example, if I was the one, I would have said something like, "Oh, I have experience working at an audit firm where I was responsible for collating and receiving information from our clients." Now, that is your experience as an auditor, but you've tailored it to now communicate a transferable skills of receiving and communicating with clients, which is what you're going to be doing as a customer service person at Net Factory. Your tell me about yourself is basically just to introduce yourself, the value you bring, and why you've applied to Net Factory and to that role. If you have time, you can even add your career aspiration into the mix of it. So, for example, I would say, hi, my name is Margaret. I have a background in accounting, although my career interest has pivoted into exploring customer experiences and customer relationship. I have experience working in XYZ company where I've had a lot of interactions with clients, managing their expectations and their needs to help improve the overall satisfaction of our clients. I'm looking forward to exploring my career interest in customer experience and customer transformation. And that is the reason I've applied for this role today at Net Factory, to help drive their mission of transforming the human capital of Africa into global talents through effective customer support. I don't know if that makes sense, but that would have been a way I would have introduced myself if I was Margaret. Does that make sense to the entire class? What I've said?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. So well done, Margaret. Thank you so much for your time, for volunteering your time. Awesome. Let's have the next person. If you don't raise up your hand, I'm going to call you randomly. So please, gently volunteer yourself. Who are we bringing up next? Oh, who? Joy. Hi, Joy. Joy Osilaga. How are you? So let's try something.
I'm
Joy,
doing
can you tell me like what's your background? Like what kind of job are you looking to apply for?
okay. Customer service, please.
Customer service.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm gonna make it harder for you. So your persona is awesome. Very good. Your persona is you're applying for the role of a customer experience manager at Net Factory company. And this role basically entails designing an effective customer experience strategy that would boost class attendance and overall impacts of the programs that we have at Nest Factory, by virtue of proper attendance, by virtue of class attendance and all of these metrics. Okay, so that's your customer persona, right? So
Yeah.
who is Techno BFC? Stop interrupting this our interview. It's like you want me to remove you from this meeting. Okay. Hi Joy. Good afternoon. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Praise. I'm the HR manager at Net Factory Company. Super excited to have received your application for the role of a customer experience manager. I want to get to know you, Joy. Can you tell me a bit about yourself?
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Praise. My name is Joy Shilaja. I have BSc in entrepreneurship and business management and the 4 years experience in customer service with Mash Baby Food currently. I'm sorry, please let me start again.
No. That's okay. It's okay. Well, this is the essence of this class where we're learning and we're improving as we go. So let's take it from the top. No pressure at all. Just relax. All right. So Joy, please tell me about yourself. I want to get to know you.
All right. So my name is Joy Shilaja. I have a BSc in entrepreneurship and business management. I currently work with Mash Baby Food. It's a baby food company as the customer service representative. I do have a 4 years work experience. And with the knowledge I have gathered, I have been able to help the company to foster good relationship with our clients, especially with the fact that we are an online business. So my work there as a customer representative rep has helped me to gain a lot of knowledge as to how to effectively manage customer complaints and problem solving. And applying here to next
Net
factory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so as the customer representative manager, I actually look forward to growing in my data analytics field, and I'm looking at bringing value to the current expectation of the company in ensuring that students attendants are well taken care of. So I look forward to ensuring that with the I'm sorry.
Joy, why are you laughing? I don't understand. Why are you laughing, Joy? You were doing fine. You were almost there. So well done. Let's take feedback from the class. So please, let's have feedback from you guys on how Joy has answered the tell me about yourself question. Feedback. Let's have feedback from Idalu Joy, her namesake. Idalu Joy. Let's have feedback from Idalu Joy. Idalu Joy, please unmute your mic and speak, please. Don't let me drag you.
Mr. Peter, I can turn off my video now, correct?
Yeah. You can turn on your I want to try you
Alright.
again with one of the questions, so just stay on the call. I just want to get
All right,
feedback of
thank
the class on. Someone says the urge to laugh must be restrained. You know the reason why Joy is laughing is because of she knows this is not an actual job interview. Because if your job interview, if you laugh, I will just remove you from the call. No, I'm checking. I won't do that. Please, where is the person I called to give feedback? She has left the call. Okay, let's hear from Shoyombo Uluwadara. Ah.
Okay, yeah, thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Praise. So Joy did very well. I love her confidence. Then the way she put the words together was great. She she tailored her answers well. And although she was laughing, but well, it was really fun to watch. However, she well, there was sometimes she was skipping maybe kind of I sensed fear in some places well while she was speaking. Yes, and I also sensed that she was trying to remember some things. So she was kind of pausing. But overall, it was good. It was okay to me.
All right. Thank you, Uluwadara, for your feedback. Joy, well done. Thank you for stepping up. Some of the things you did really well. I liked how you started introducing yourself and talking about your qualification, and then you moved into speaking about your current engagement. So I think after that, then it started to now go downward from there overall. But you were looking at the camera. So some of the things you did very well. You're looking at the camera, but then at some point you took up your eyes. But I want you to always know that you need to stare at the camera and act like you're speaking to someone. So that is something else I noted in terms of how you can overall improve. I think that you're overthinking it. I think that was what happened the first and second time. I think you're overthinking it. Just relax. It's just a conversation, really, when you're speaking to somebody. You already know that you have the skills and they've invited you for an interview. You're like, as in, what that should tell you is that you have made an impression already. You just need to show them what you got, right? So relax. And then, when you speak about your experience, you need to sound confident about it. I felt like that was also something that didn't exactly shine through. You were speaking like it was very passive, very low energy. Remember when we spoke about low energy? You need to sound like you know what you're saying. So if I was one, I'm like, oh, hi, my name is Joy. I have a background in business administration from XYZ University. I'm currently the customer experience I'm currently the customer experience manager at the baby food company. I basically lead or I work with our customers to tackle some of their most challenging problems, which has led to tremendous customer reviews and relationship over time. Prior to that, I've worked at XYZ company as well, where also, manage the customer complaints for onboard and inboard of XYZ clients. Overall, I'm looking forward to exploring my career interest in customer experience. That's why I've applied for this role at Net Factory Company. I'm very particular about what the company is doing around transforming the human capital, the human capital of Africa, into global talent. And I want to contribute to that success, by facilitating effective customer support for both our students and our stakeholders. Straight to the point, simple, cool introduction. How did I do, guys? How did I do? How did I do?
You're an
Great.
expert, though. This was expertise.
So you know
Awesome.
this
Well
thing,
done.
you know this thing.
He made it sound
Ada,
like you were having a
yeah,
serious
Ada is
conversation.
listening. Oh.
Yeah, it's a conversation. It's a conversation. And let's have somebody from the brotherhood, because I've been having ladies. Please, men, step up, step up, step up. Let's have one guy. I don't have a lot of time. I think I need to close the simulation by 12:15. So I need to take like as many people as I can within that timeline. So this one, we're going to run a full-on interview. I'm going to ask you like 3 questions and let's see how you do. And I'm going to wear the hat of an actual interview, and you see how it actually works. Right, yes. It's you I want to call now, Seth. You're the one that was stressing with all the questions you were asking me. Let's go. Awesome. So, can you tell me about your experience? Like, what kind of job are you looking to apply for? Let's see if we can make it easy for you. You're on mute, Bright, if you're speaking.
Customer service rep.
Customer service. Oh, interesting. Interesting. Still the same storyline. So persona, you're applying for the role of a customer experience manager at, I don't want to use next fact checking because I'm sure you have thought about the answers you want to ask. All these people, they have given you a spool. Okay, so you're applying for the role of a customer experience manager at PiggyVest, right? I'm sure everybody knows PiggyVest. That's a very popular company. Wait, do you know PiggyVest? Right. If you don't know PiggyVest, I'll remove it from this call now. Okay, so you're applying for the role of a customer experience manager at PiggyVest. And this role basically entails, so now we're getting so the problem that we're facing in our organization now is that a lot of people are getting worried about the investment offering that we have around maturity and things like that. So we're getting quite a number of calls and concerns around CBM regulation and things like that. And this is something that is impacting on the overall reputation of our brand. And that's why we're now calling for application customer experience manager, at PiggyVest. And now I am the HR. So I'm going to wear my HR cap now, or interviewer cap. Hi, Bright. Good afternoon. Hi, how you doing today?
Good afternoon, Mr. Peter. I'm good.
Awesome. My name is Praise. I'm the HR manager at PiggyVest, and I received your application for the role of a customer experience manager. Someone's mic is turned on. Please, you're interrupting the class. Who's that person? It's Techno BFCs. I will remove this Techno BFCs from this call again. Techno BFCs. We want. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm trying to come back to my character. Yeah. All right, Bright. So I received your application and I'm super excited to have this conversation with you today. So can you tell me a bit about yourself, Bright?
Over the years, I have gained so much experience, skills, and so let me start again. Sorry.
And I'm also struggling to hear you. Can you be more audible?
Okay, can you hear me clearly? Now,
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you. I can hear you right.
okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Praise. am Bright, the customer service rep by training, experience, and practice. Over the years, I have worked as a customer service person in EcoBank Nigeria Limited, the banking industry, and also um, as a teaser in the hospitality industry. I had helped in providing the banking industry. I did lots of upselling and cross-selling, and we made an estimated amount of 100 million per annum. While at the hospitality industry, I helped in customer script writing that improved our customer engagement up to 95%. It was largely, and we had lots of patronage, and it was quite an eventful one. I have made some mistakes, and I have learned from them, and I have harnessed so much skills in terms of customer empathy, centricity, and so much I would love to share, but
Okay,
due to time,
yes.
I would just
Thank you, Brian. Can you tell me a bit about why you've applied for this role exactly? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Why have you applied for the role of an experienced or customer experience manager at PiggyVest?
okay. Over years, I have developed leadership skill, and with my experience in customer service, I have lots of innovations I would love to bring them on board to increase um, customer patronage and engagement. I have come to understand that uh, putting myself in customers' shoes would ensure proper customer engagement, and I have over years developed such skills. And coming on board, I'll making set goals as such to the next seamlessly.
Okay, Brian, thank you for that. I'm just going to move on. So, can you tell me about a time when you've had competing the customer complaints all at the same time? How did you handle all of that complaints within very limited timelines without ensuring that the customers do not leave dissatisfied?
Okay, I'll try to make this story a short one. At the time at the hospitality management, we only we only deliver products when payment is confirmed. So a customer called in and requested that we make a delivery to her at a hotel where she was, but because she just got into the country and she couldn't make transfers, it is against the company's policy to send out goods without payment. Now, because of the principle in customer service, I put myself in the customer's shoes. So I went to my manager and I disclosed it to her and suggested that we make an exception for this customer so we can make delivery to her because she needed this product and to also to gain her loyalty. So she agreed after listening to my suggestion, and we delivered this product to this lady, to our customer, and she paid in cash. And she called back to thank us for an exceptional service and within that loyalty. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, but that is interesting. But then it doesn't speak to the question of having multiple competing customers that you need to attend to at the same time. So how exactly would you have you been in a situation like that? Because that's typically what we face here here at PiggyVest. We have quite a number of calls coming in. As a customer experience manager, we're supposed to oversee all the customer service representative and customer success managers we have within the team. How would you exactly ensure that all customers leave calls and contact lines happy?
Okay, thank you so very much, Mr. Praise. I would ensure that a time frame is given to every customer so as to reach out to every this I would love to come again. I would ensure
Yeah,
that
please go ahead.
certain I would ensure that a specific time is assigned to every customer so we don't get to exhaust so much time on every on just the customer. So a certain time will be given to every customer, and we ensure that customers' solution is try to be met at that time. That way we can just reach out to so many customers and settle whatever the case.
So you mentioned that that the time will be given to every customer. What exactly do you mean by that?
Okay, what I meant was this. Now, instead of talking to a customer for 6 10 minutes, we can reduce the time to 2 minutes,
And
ensuring that in terms we would try as much as we can to attend to 5 customers instead of just one customer. Now, we'll keep that
so
time as a standard.
So if you're reducing the standard timeline from 6 minutes to 2 minutes, does that mean that the customer, because I'm sure that I'm getting to that conclusion of 6 minutes as a result of data and insight, right? So if you're reducing that to 2 minutes, that means less time on the phone with the customer. What exactly are you going to put in place to ensure that the customer's request or inquiry is attended to within the time frame that you're setting for 2 minutes?
I will put in follow up. Now, another principle in customer service is let the customer know the process, keep the customer on the know. In 2 minutes, we can wrap up or summarize our customers, our conversation.
Okay, right. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm actually running out of time. I just want to ask you a final question. So my final question to you is you've worked in hospitality, you've worked in other industries, and this is the first time coming into financial services. What exactly are you bringing to the table, or why exactly should we even consider your application given your lack of experience in that industry?
Thank you so much, Mr. Faye. I am not I am not bringing a new game into the financial industry. I am only going to improve on the existing one. Now, in
So
terms
I'm
of
struggling to hear you, Brian. Can you speak a bit louder?
yes, I, I'm going to improve on the existing services, and as a customer service manager, I would ensure that
Customer
all
experience manager, right? That's the role that we're recruiting for. Are you sure you're well aware of what this role entails? Because you keep missing out on the actual job description, and that communicates to me that you're not ready for this interview. So can you speak to me a bit about what you've done? You said you worked at EcoBank, right? Can you tell me what exactly you did at EcoBank?
I I did account opening, I upsell bank products, and also did some account reconciliation.
So what was your specific contribution to improving that entire process at the bank?
The thing is, I brought in some level of multitasking accuracy and speed. I ensured that a service that was going to last for 5 minutes is done in 2 minutes.
And how exactly did you do that? Multitasking in what way? Like, did you grow a second leg or a second arm? How exactly did you do that?
While I attend to a typical customer, I still attend to mails, mails from customers. So while the customer is talking to me as regarding an issue, while I keep an eye contact with the customer, I also
Hmm.
sometimes glance my
Yeah, please go ahead. Go ahead.
so I sometimes go through my mail and I search for quick problems, easy problems I could just solve in less than 2 minutes. And that way
Hmm.
I attend to more customers and
Okay, Bright. That is fine. Um, can you tell me, some of your weaknesses and strengths and how exactly that is going to translate to value for us at PikiVest?
my strength is my strength is
Are you
hello.
looking at your
Can you hear me?
screen, right? Are you searching for where your weaknesses are? Is that what you're doing? Because I see you moving around and looking up and down. What are you doing? Is there someone there?
Okay.
Oh,
So
it's funny. It's funny. Like what I'm saying is funny, right? Right? I'm just joking. Please go ahead.
I my strength is my strength is centered on empathy. I see myself, I see me by default putting myself in a customer shoe, and that way I resolve problems like it is my problem, and I do that so effortlessly. And my weakness is time management, and I am taking some courses to ensure that I don't spend so much on treating one issue for a longer time.
A follow-on question. I'm a bit concerned for someone who is going to lead customer experience at PiggyVest. You're struggling with time management. How exactly does that work for us? Because we're dealing with very competing inquiries and outreaches, and you're struggling with time management. How exactly does that work for us?
Thank you so much, Mr. Praise. I would like to point out that for a comprehensive and for a comprehensive customer approach and to actually get customers satisfied, there is a level of interaction that is required, and that requires time. Now, but because we want to reach out to so many customers, it is imperative that we reduce on our time consumption. Now, because I have empathy, which is customer service skills, I tend to dwell more in interacting with the customers to ensure
Okay,
that
Brett, you're not answering my question. The question I was asking you, you said you have a personal struggle with weaknesses. Your personal weakness is time management, and I'm just raising a concern around someone who's going to lead our customer experience having a personal struggle with time management. How exactly is that going to translate, in our business operation if you have not gotten your time management right? I'm just curious.
thank you so much, Mr. Praise. I would love to point out that in as much as my time management is a weakness, I want to also point at it as a strength to your organization. But at the meantime, I am working on ensuring that I I improve on managing my time right by taking courses and
Mm.
also make writing out that reduces
Okay, so
uh,
the thing now, right now, is that we're actually looking for a customer experience manager who already has a check on his time. We might not be able to wait till you finish taking those courses for us to effectively see results. So I'm just going to move past that. Thank you so much for your time today. Do you have any questions for us?
yes, please. Thank you so much, Mr. Praise. Thank you so much for your time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yeah, please go ahead.
I would love to know what you have for me in your organization, because I have come to understand that for me to be productive, I would need to get personal development. Is there a structure in your organization that would encourage personal development in terms of paid training
Mm-hmm.
or educational
Yeah,
leads?
I totally understand your question. Yeah, that's a very good one. So yeah, at PiggyVest, we're very big on talent development. We have a lot of packages around that. Aside our very interesting and competitive salary pay and other employee benefits, we also provide you with international training opportunities by virtue of how much value you're driving for the business. So we do that a lot. This is something that we take very seriously. And of course, we do have structures around that. We even go as far as paying for international courses and as much as your MBA if you want to. But then it has to be commensurated the value that you translate or bring into the business overall. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, good to know. Thank you so much, Mr. Chris. Just one more
Oh,
question.
right.
If that's it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm actually out of time, so I'm just gonna give you 2 minutes to wrap that up.
Okay. Thank you. So I would also want to know what the biggest problem, what the challenges are in this department. What are the challenges you have encountered, and
Okay,
that would be all.
we're actually launching some new set of product features at PiggyVest here, and that is raising a lot of concerns for our customers. And then we're getting quite a number of calls. We're getting quite a number of concerns around the kind of calls that the kind of features and their feasibility and even the use of those features, right? So we're looking for a customer experience manager who has a grasp of his time, by the way, has strong time management skills, to effectively drive an impactful customer experience strategy that's impresses on the mind of our customers trust and credibility, and also works with the marketing communications team to effectively create educational content around some of the uses of these new features that we're launching. So this is what we're actually looking forward to doing, and that's what we're recruiting for this role. But thank you so much for your time here today. We'll be in contact with you about the decision or the outcome of our conversation. And do have a lovely rest of your day, Bright.
Thank you so much, Dr. Thank you for having me.
Awesome, awesome. Have a lovely day. Bye. Okay, now we're wearing the cap of praise now. So I want to get feedback from the class. Let's get a sense of how Bright performed overall. So because of time, just say me all the things that he didn't do well, so that we'll just talk about the ones he did well. We have a song. Your hand is up. Do you want to say something?
Yes, one second.
Okay, yeah, please go ahead, Deborah.
Okay,
Hello. Okay. Can I say something?
Yes, please.
Okay, I don't know if opportunity will be given to me as well for me to actually air my own interview and then stuff like that. So I don't know if there's any
There's no time again.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why we're asking for volunteers earlier. Okay. Yeah, but can you share what you experienced with Bright's interview?
Okay, with Bright's interview, right? Okay. Actually, it wasn't that vibrant because I believe being a customer representatives or customer care like that, I believe it has to be very vibrant and up and doing, and then so that it can actually take the attentions of the customer and then grab the attentions and then try to make sure that they wield them to understand and then calm down. Because I believe when a customer calls, I know it very well that they are actually, most of the times, if they want to compare in terms of percentage, at like 70% are actually very, very anxious to get the answer immediately. No, because maybe at times they are in distress and stuff like that. So you have to be very vibrant to equally grab the attentions of the customer and then try to make sure that they calm, they calm, and then they understand that. So that's what I can say. But to me, and then he's okay. At least he tries in terms of.
Yeah,
So I don't know.
You sound very comfortable. Thank you for sharing.
All right, now have a lovely day.
Yeah, you too. Let's hear from Joy. Sorry. Before we hear from Joy, let's hear from Deborah.
okay, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
From my own take on how he performed, I observed that I feel like he did not understand the questions he was asked before jumping to answer them. So I know that from the interview I had before joining the company I work with, I learned that asking them for clarity won't actually hurt you. So I feel he should have asked for maybe an instance to help him understand the question better. You know where to come from to give his answer.
Yeah.
So that's what I have to say.
Yeah, thanks Deborah for sharing. Can I hear from Joy Osilaja? Joy.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah. I actually do think Bright did well. First, that he was able to stay on the call, even though um, he was he was not well informed about the questions or the job role. I'm sorry about my voice. The job role. So I think that was why, in order to avoid situations like this, that's why you advised that we do a lot of research and understand the job description, so that when we ask questions relating to what we are applying for, we're able to give the accurate response. Then
Very good.
another thing so another thing I can say is also that as you were asking him questions and he was looking up
Up
and
and
down
down.
and
Yeah, on the screen. That was very obvious. Yeah, very important. Well done for picking that up.
yeah, and then I don't know if it was his network, but then his video kept going off and on. So I think that is another thing, especially for virtual interviews like this. Then just then another thing I want to quickly just say, I don't know if it's a question or it's part of what my observation was. I want to find out though. When you were asking him some questions, those ones he did not understand, and he was giving you answers that were not too correct. So now I want to ask, my question is, I'm sorry, but my question is, how long do you think I mean, how long do you think it can take for us to buy time in order to compose ourselves and put our thoughts together when we are asked questions that we didn't really prepare for?
Yes, this is also something that we discussed during the class when I was talking about certain things you need to do. First of all, if you're asked a question and you don't understand it, ask for clarity. Nobody is going to beat you. Another thing I said is sometimes when you ask a question, I don't know the answer right off the bat. Something else you can use to buy time is to ask them to repeat the question, or they should rephrase the question so that it's clearer to you. By the time the interviewer has read the question again or tried to rephrase it for you, you're already there thinking. And another thing again is it's okay to ask your interviewer, oh, please, can I get a few seconds to think about this a bit more before answering? I feel like it is better to take some time to think about it and give the right answer than just jump at it immediately and answer the wrong thing. These were some of the things we discussed in the class. If you were taking note, I'm sure you would have noticed some of these things that I just mentioned now. So it's either you ask them to recap the question, rephrase the question, gives you time to think, or you politely ask for them to give you some time to think about the question a bit more. I hope that helps.
Yes,
And
sir. Yes,
also,
sir. Thank you.
yeah, it's also very critical to read the body language of your interviewer, right? When they begin to get on anxious, it's probably because you're not answering the question that they're asking you. And it's okay to say, okay, I probably have not answered the question, because I even had to give him a cue. You're not answering the question I'm asking you. I feel like at that point, I said, oh, please, can you rephrase the question again so that I understand what you're asking? That would have been a better approach than still going at it again with your misunderstanding. I don't know if that makes sense. Anyways, Bright, overall, I think you did amazing. Well done. Um, some of the things you did well was you maintained your composure, even when I made it a bit heated intentionally. But I feel like you kept your cool. You still sounded very calm. For a customer service person like the other guy mentioned, I feel like you should have been a bit more assertive, a bit more outspoken, a bit more, you know, convincing because and the reason why I was doing that was I was literally giving you impatience, which is something that a customer will probably do. And I expected you to sort of like manage it a bit differently as someone with experience in customer service. Then the question around your strengths, you answered it, but then you didn't speak to how the value that your strength is going to bring to the organization. And then for the weakness, you waited for me to, to then make a case for your weakness. First of all, the weakness you chose, like I said, don't use a weakness that is critical for that job. Don't say a weakness that is essential for your success, because that on its own can literally disqualify you on the spot. For someone who's coming to become a customer experience manager and you're struggling with time management, there's a fundamental problem, a fundamental disconnect at that point. So that's what I was saying. Be smart around the kind of weaknesses that you choose so that they don't impact on you. If you notice, I kept saying we're looking for someone who already has time management on lock, because that's what exactly that job entails. Because you're going to be, managing multiple priorities at the same time. So you need to have a knack for time management. I was expecting to say, things like, if it's something entirely different that will not impact on your role. I hope some of these things help. I mean, I don't have time to go over some of the things I wanted to say, but then overall, I feel like, you did well, but just, look at some of these things that have been mentioned already on the call, and I feel like you'll be fine, right? For the something else that you did very well was, I think you used the STAR technique very well around the behavioral question, but then you didn't answer the question correctly. But then the use of the STAR technique was observed. You gave context. You specifically said what you were supposed to do, what the result or the outcome of that. So perfect. But then it wasn't answering the question that you were asked. So that will be all from me. Thank you guys so much for being such an amazing class. I wish you guys the very best in your job hunting journey, job search journey. It's not an easy road, but then keep hope alive, and I'm sure everything will be fine, right? Thank you so much for having me, Net Factory. Thank you so much, Sheifa, for always bringing me on. Really looking forward to subsequent partnerships and training sessions with you. All right.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, sir.
Thank you so much.
Great.
Thank you very